Hello, I'm J. Jermaine Bay of Elodium Moorish Pradium, Monte, Colorado. The acronym is AMPAC, and I'm Chief Judge of Consular Court. Today is Class 137. Class 137. What did we learn in Class 136? Well, the bottom line is this. We're learning that we have just simply been miseducated as a people, right? So always remember that AMPAC study session is an educational platform. So we're here to educate, right? And within the midst of education, you have to expose things where you were miseducated, right? The only way for us to fix something, we have to point it out. Then we have to fix it and then move on, right? So that's what AMPAC study session is about. It's about telling the truth, right? This is an educational platform, right? Remember, always keep in mind that AMPAC study session never asks you to share, like, subscribe. We don't ask for donations. We don't ask for any type of Patreon, nothing. So you know that this channel can be trusted because it's not about money for AMPAC study session. AMPAC study session is an attachment to AMPAC as a state, right? So I stand here as an educator, but I'll also stand here as an official of my state. So therefore, as a state official, we don't ask for money because our state has an obligation to get taxation from the United States. So therefore, all officials of Moroccan states, all of our compensation will come from taxation once the United States and the several union states start to pay their taxes to the Moroccan government, right? So we learned a lot more about that in Class 136. It's about taxation, right? But what we really take from Class 136 is that we have to stop the procrastination, right? We've been posturing, we've been negligent in our duties, and we have to get back and follow the strict sense of our own Moorish treaties. And the Act Algeciras was an obligation and responsibility to start to govern again. This is what Moors have to understand. If you say treaty supreme law of the land, then the Act of Algeciras had a mandate for the Moors to establish their Moorish government and start to police all of the Europeans in Morocco in order to collect taxes, etc. This is what we must understand. The Europeans themselves helped to put together the Act of Algeciras. It was the European states who put the language in a Moorish treaty for the Moors to govern over the Europeans, because the Europeans were infighting all the time. Only Moors could come in and help to be a referee, to break that up, and also to collect taxes, right? So today we're going to go ahead and get back into the class, right? We won't spend too much time on the introduction. We have a long class today. Let's get through the materials. All right, so as everyone knows, I always open up the Constitution. Constitution is paramount, right? So the Constitution of our Moroccan states, all the Moroccan states right now in the Udi Posides juris, all constitutions of the Moorish government, which you call provincial constitutions. What does provincial mean? Such as an example, AMPAC's constitution is provincial. That means that we recognize that we come under a sovereign. And what's the name of the sovereign state? The Empire of Morocco, right? So you have the Empire of Morocco, then you got AMPAC as an example, right? So the parent external state is the Empire of Morocco. Then you got AMPAC underneath that as an internal integrated state of the Empire of Morocco, all right? That's what we got to understand. We're talking jurisdiction, right? So the Empire of Morocco has a jurisdiction. The Empire of Morocco grants jurisdiction to AMPAC. That way AMPAC can oversee the latitude, longitude of the territory that's described in our Constitution. That's what it's all about. All right, it's about jurisdiction. We're going to learn a little bit more about jurisdiction today. All right, let's go ahead and get into the class. All right, what do I have up here? We're going to do a little slight change of pace. This is a flyer from the House of Reawakening Minds with Dr. G Show. Today I'd like to dedicate today's class to Dr. G. Dr. G, just want to let you know, recently on March 1st, 2024, you made the statement that you're just trying to bring all the people together. You're looking for unity. What do we need to do to come together? How do we move forward? I've noticed you've said that a lot lately. Like, okay, we know we're not black, right? Everybody already knows we're not black. Okay, so what do we do next? That's the question, right? So I noticed on your flyer, you got a flyer coming up, right? It's April 26th through the 28th of 2024. You got these speakers coming up. So Dr. G, I'm going to dedicate this AMPAC study session to you, because we have to talk about what's going on with these speakers up here, And are they going to share you the truth and nothing but the truth, right? The clarity of what we should be talking about as a people, all right? So, like I said, you know, with honors to you, because I know you've done a good job. You've got 30,000 subscribers. You're doing a good job. So I want to do my best to give you some erudition on something that you should have always known. You've been in the movement for over 13 years. You say your last name is Il, right? You got an E-L, so you're Dr. G-L, right? Which tells me that you're claiming to be a Moor. So therefore, if you're claiming to be a Moor, Dr. G, then let's talk about Moors. Keep in mind, Dr. G, the abbreviation for Moor is Moor, but it means Moroccan. Your nationality is Moroccan, Dr. G, not Moorish American. We'll talk about that today. All right, so I dedicate this class to you. Okay, let's go ahead and jump on in, right? Dr. G, I've been talking about the Charter of the United Nations because Barack H. Obama wanted all the Moors to go back and read the Charter. This is the reason why he went to Cairo, Egypt to talk about the Moorish treaties, and he came back and signed the rights of indigenous people. And he told the Moors, read the Charter, because the rights of indigenous people opens up to say all your rights are derived from the Charter. What does that mean? That means if you understand the Charter holds all the member states obligated to assist colonized people to be at varying stages of advancement to self-govern. So the member states, such as the United States of America, has an obligation and a responsibility to assist the Moors to get back to a status where they can self-govern. All right, this is why Barack H. Obama wanted us to read the Charter, but I don't think you've ever read the Charter, Dr. G, because I never hear you talking about it, but we'll talk about it today, all right? So I'm taking a step backwards because the Moors know as of late I've been talking about taxes. The Moors are owed taxes, right? Well, what type of Moors, Dr. G? Well, you must understand the word Moor is a generic word. It depends on how you're using it, right? So there's Moors all over the world. But if you say that you're what? A Moroccan Moor, that means a Moroccan state recognizes you as being Moroccan. If you say you're Moorish American, you're saying, in essence, that America recognizes you. So therefore, you fall under the jurisdiction of America. When Moors say they're Moroccan, they say the Moroccan government, the Moroccan state, has jurisdiction over all Moroccans, right? So you got to understand this is all about jurisdiction depending on the name that you're using. The word Moor is generic. I'm a Moroccan, i.e. Moor, because the abbreviation for Moroccan is Moor. There's a lot of Moors that are still subjugated, so therefore you got Moors that are Canadians, you got Moors that are British, you got Moors that are French, etc. Right? So we'll talk some more about that today. It's all about jurisdiction. So Barack H. Obama wanted us to study the Charter, Dr. G. And because of your flyer, you're bringing together these group of people. Listen, Dr. G. Be patient with me today, Dr. G. The people you have on here, such as this young lady calls herself Rare Bird, she's calling herself an Indian. She doesn't understand by saying she's an Indian or Native American, she's talking jurisdiction. You got Tashri Bey. Tashri Bey says we're Moorish Americans. He's talking jurisdiction by using that name, right? And you've got all these other Moors. You got Abdullah Il Talib Mosi Bey. Abdullah's been talking about Moroccan statehood, so he's talking jurisdiction, all right? So you got Lamont on here, this dude Yakuba. Yakuba and Lamont, they're just parroting what Todd is saying, right? So you really the only thing you got is three different perspectives up here. You got someone saying they're Indians, you got someone saying they're Moorish American, and you got Abdullah saying we're Moroccans, right? So we got to talk about that. All three of those things are proclaiming a jurisdiction, right? So Indians are claiming a jurisdiction, Moorish Americans are claiming a jurisdiction, and Abdullah's talking about Moroccan jurisdiction. All right, we're talking about jurisdiction today. That's very important, Dr. G, because you say you want to bring people together. Well, the question is, okay, under what jurisdiction? Keep in mind, Dr. G, jurisdiction is about state. It's about territory, Dr. G. Anytime you hear a person say, well, what jurisdiction? They're talking territory, right? They're talking the name of the state, the territory. They're talking about, okay, well, what laws do you use in that territory? And in whatever laws you use, now you can use those courts because the courts only recognize the laws of that jurisdiction. So jurisdiction starts with state, then the people. Then you got your laws and your courts. So in jurisdiction, right? In jurisdiction, we're talking statehood. The people are named after the land, and the land is named after the people. So therefore, Moroccans are in Morocco, right? Americans are in America, right? We're talking jurisdiction. I'm talking in layers, Dr. G. Layers, 1, 2, 3. We're talking layers. So if a person say, I'm Moorish American, okay, then where's the Moorish American state? Because the state is named after the people. Remember I said when I opened up, AMPAC says they're coming under the jurisdiction of who? Empire Morocco, then you got AMPAC, right? So Empire Morocco is for Moroccans. So AMPAC's nationals are Moroccan, all right? So you say you're Moorish American, what state are you coming from? There's no state called Moorish American. Therefore, you can't claim a nationality that says Moorish American. There's no state called Moorish American. You have to understand what I'm saying. There's no state called Indian. There's no state on planet Earth called Indian. That is India. We'll talk about that today. All right, so we're talking jurisdiction, Dr. G. All right, thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. Okay. We're going to start with Article 73, Dr. G. This is what Barack H. Obama wanted us to read, okay? You have to understand the Charter obligates the United States of America to abide by these prescriptions. These provisions are binding against the United States of America. Because the United States of America and the several union states and the United States Federal Corporation are all acting as administrators, as trustees over the Empire of Morocco. And they get to hold on to that trust position as long as the Moors keep doing what? Acquiescing. What does acquiescence mean, Dr. G? It means the Moors are calling themselves every name but Moroccan. So any name you call yourself other than Moroccan, that means you're acquiescing. However, you just can't say Moroccan. The Moroccan state has to recognize you by consent, that you fill out an application to return to Morocco. That way the Moroccan state can recognize you as being Moroccan. We'll talk about that. Okay, so from the top, Dr. Dre.
Chapter 11, Declaration regarding non-self-governing territories. Article 73. Members of the United Nations which have or assume responsibilities for the administration of territories whose peoples have not yet attained a full measure of self-government recognize the principle that the interests of the inhabitants of these territories are paramount, and accept as a sacred trust the obligation to promote to the utmost within the system of international peace and security established by the present charter the well-being of the inhabitants of these territories, and to this end.
All right, pause right there. So Dr. G, under Article 73, the administration is the United States of America. And they're overseeing all the territories of the Moroccan Empire, the Moorish Empire. It was the Moors' obligation to get into a status of self-government because we are the natural inhabitants. The Moors are the natural inhabitants, right? So we have to declare first, right? At the top it says it's a declaration, all right? So how do you declare that you want independence? Where it starts with what? A declaration of independence. So you have to let the whole world know the declaration that now you're restoring what? The state. And then the state recognizes its nationals. It's state first, then nationals. But the nationals establish what's called a constitution. Through that constitution, now the constitution becomes the sovereign, and it recognizes its nationals, and it recognizes the representatives of the state. So what's the declaration about? It's about the people declaring they're about to get into what? Statehood. That way they can start to do what? Self-govern through their own state. Right? Okay, continue. Section 8.
A. To ensure with due respect for the culture of the peoples concerned, their political, economic, social, and educational advancement, their just treatment, and their protection against abuses. B. To develop self-government, to take due account of the political aspirations of the peoples, and to assist them in the progressive development of their free political institutions, according to the particular circumstances of each territory and its peoples and their varying stages of advancement.
All right, Dr. G. So it's the obligation of the United States of America to assist the Moors. But the Moors first have to assist themselves because they have to declare first. And in their declaration, they have to declare what's going to be the nationality as well. But the nationality must match the state. If the state is Morocco, the nationality has to be Moroccan. Okay? But the United States of America has an obligation to assist us. All right.
C, to further international peace and security. D, to promote constructive measures of development, to encourage research, and to cooperate with one another, and when and where appropriate, with specialized international bodies with a view to the practical achievement of the social, economic, and scientific purposes set forth in this article. And E, to transmit regularly to the Secretary General for information purposes, subject to such limitation as security and constitutional considerations may require, statistical and other information of a technical nature relating to economic, social, and educational conditions in the territories for which they are respectively responsible, other than those territories to which chapters 12 and 13 apply.
Okay, Dr. G, this is a very important subsection. So Article 73, Section E, as an echo, says that the United States of America, right, has an obligation to transmit to the United Nations to let the United Nations Secretary General know that the Moors have declared their independence, and they're also establishing what? A constitution. See right here, Dr. G? Constitutional consideration may require. You see that? That's very important to understand, Dr. G. So when you're talking to people on your panel, ask each one of them where's their constitution. If in fact they're talking about coming together to uplift fallen humanity, the first thing they needed was a Declaration of Independence claiming the nationality, right? As well as they had to put together what? A constitution. So ask these panelists where's their constitution. Does it say the nationality of Moroccan? Right? Does it talk about Morocco? We're going to learn more about this today, Dr. G. All right? So first, ask them about their constitution. Did they declare their independence? All right? So ask them about the name of their state. Ask them who is the three branches. Who's the prime minister, the wazir, or president of the state. Ask them what's the name of the legislators. Do they have a speaker of the house? Ask them what's the name of the judge, and did they take a public inauguration? Did they ratify, deposit, and promulgate that Constitution with the United Nations in accordance to Article 102 of the Charter? Did any of these people recognize the Charter in itself? Because all states have to recognize the Charter through what's called an accession. So first there must be a ratification from the House of Representatives, which is the matriarchal council, sign a bill that recognizes the Charter. Then they pass it over to the head of state. The head of state signs it into law. And then they send that accessions document over to the United Nations and deposit it with the Secretariat and according to Article 102. So ask your panelists if they got a Declaration of Independence and a Constitution that recognizes the defined territory, the government, they got government officials, public inauguration, and they deposit all that with the United Nations according to Article 102. Ask all your panelists that question.
They didn't.
And the answer is no, they haven't. So how can we come together when it's a false start? First, we must understand jurisdiction. Let's talk jurisdiction, Dr. G. Okay, first things first, Dr. G. We're going to look up the definition of jurisdiction. Brother Dre.
Jurisdiction. Noun. The official power to make legal decisions and judgments.
Read it again.
Jurisdiction. Noun. The official power to make legal decisions and judgments.
All right, similar.
Similar. Authority, control, power, dominion, rule, administration.
All right. So if you're talking jurisdiction now, it's the official power. Official, what does official mean? State officials. See? State officials. So official power to make legal decisions and judgments. The only way to make legal decisions, Dr. G, that means you need a legislative branch. Legislators enact laws. Guess who enforces the laws? Judges. That way they give judgments based on anybody who breaches the law. So therefore, the official power means you have full powers in effect, right? That means you have a state, constitution, three branches of government. You have the elected officials. They have a public inauguration. And now they start to do what? Make legal decisions based upon the statutes or laws of said state. And then the judges support the legislation. You see? Now, I got a question for you, Dr. G. Anybody on your state panel have three branches of government? Constitution, flag, seal? Who was the leaders of the state? These are the questions you have to ask these panelists, because if they can't answer these questions, they can't come together with solutions to move forward because they're not official. Listen, jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is about the official power. Nobody on your panel has official power, Dr. G, including yourself. You have to pledge your allegiance to return to a state. And you don't hold an office of being a matriarchal council legislator. You're not the head of state. You're not a judge of the state. You're not the consul general of the state. You're not the minister of foreign affairs of the state. You hold no office. There's been no public inauguration for you to hold an office. So you have a panelist, and nobody up here is the competent authority of their state. So therefore they have no official power of jurisdiction. Okay, what else about jurisdiction? Okay, right here, Brother Dre.
The extent of the power to make legal decisions and judgments.
All right. Right here, read this.
The claim will be within the jurisdiction of the industrial tribunal.
All right, so that's jurisdiction. Okay, so jurisdiction. Okay, it's about authority, control, power, dominion, rule, administration. You see that last word, administration? That's the government. This is what the Moors have been missing, government. But you also have people on your panelists, as the panelists, who are saying they're Indians. You got like Rare Bird saying she's Indian. Where's her government? Where's her constitution? Where's the three branches of government? What treaty are they invoking as Indians? Where do they derive their authority to have official power, to have jurisdiction over anybody? So we got to talk jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is about the land, the people, and the government. And you got to be the official authority of said state and government. We'll talk about that today, Dr. G. Be patient with me. All right. Okay, Dr. G. Up here I have a United Nations resolution. It's about decolonization. All the Moors should be talking about decolonization, because that's the problem amongst our people. We have to decolonize because we are colonized people. Therefore, we have to decolonize. In order to decolonize, we have to declare. When we declare what? Our nationality, the name of the state. Where do we derive our authority as a people? That's the question, Dr. G. Where do we derive our authority? Well, the authority comes from jurisdiction. You must be the official of a state, Dr. G. All right? Check it out. Okay, this United Nations resolution. All right. Nova.
United Nations General Assembly Resolution 1541.
All right.
Article 73E of the Charter.
So, United Nations, Dr. G, Resolution 1541 is about what we read in the Charter, about Article 73 of the Charter. Right? So, Article 73E of the Charter had what? A mandate, right? They had a mandate. In Article 73E, the United States of America is responsible for transmitting regularly to the Secretary General of the United Nations for information purposes subject to such limitation as security and constitutional considerations may require. Right? It's about the status, right? The status and other information of a technical nature relating to economic, right, social, and educational conditions. AMPAC study sessions, the educational platform, educational conditions in the territory is Morocco, because you declared as Morocco, for which they are respectively responsible. So who's respectfully responsible for the territory of Morocco? Geographically speaking, it's the United States of America. To assist the Moors to be at varying states of advancement, to rise up that way the Moors can self-govern as what? Moroccans. That's the nationality. Right? So getting back to it, Dr. G. Thank you for your patience. So Resolution 1541, Dr. G, is about Article 73E of the Charter, because Barack H. Obama wants to go back and read the Charter so we can find out what else is assessed to the Charter, such as this Resolution 1541. What is 1541 about? It's about jurisdiction. We're going to talk about that. Right here. Noah.
Considering the objectives set forth in Chapter 11 of the Charter of the United Nations,
Okay, just a moment. All right, so the General Assembly, Dr. G, put together Resolution 1541 in the year 1961, and it was about what? Considering the objectives set forth in Chapter 11 of the Charter of the United Nations. You see that, Dr. G? So Resolution 1541 is about Chapter 11, right? It's about Chapter 11 of the Charter of the United Nations. This is what Barack H. Obama wanted the Moors to go read, right? We have to get to a point where we're no longer being governed. We have to self-govern, Dr. G. But as what? As Moors. But Moors abbreviation for what? Moroccans. So therefore, if we're Moroccans, what's the name of the land? Morocco. We'll talk about that. Okay, getting back to the resolution. We're talking jurisdiction. Now we're going to scroll down, Dr. G. Watch this. We're going to scroll down to principle number 4. All right, principle number 4. Nova.
Principle number 4, prima facie, there is an obligation to transmit information in respect of a territory which is geographically separate and is distinct ethnically and or culturally from the country administering it.
All right. Okay, read it again.
Prima facie, there is an obligation to transmit information in respect of a territory which is geographically separate and is distinct ethnically and or culturally from the country administering it.
Okay, did you hear that, Dr. G? So far, what have we learned so far? Well, United Nations says your territory has to be distinct ethnically. What does that mean? What does ethnic mean? They're talking nationality. When you're talking nationality, you're talking jurisdiction. Okay, let's take it to the board, Dr. G. Follow me. Okay. Right now we're talking about the Charter of the United Nations. We just finished reading Chapter 11, which is Articles 73 and 74. But Articles 73 and 74 is about what? Sovereign and independent jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. That's what Article 73 is about. It's about jurisdiction of what? The territory. It was the Moor obligation to declare. It says a declaration, right? Article 73 says a declaration. What are you declaring? Your nationality in the name of the land and the defined territory of what land you're taking over. And you're saying you're going to establish a government through what? Your constitution. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about that today. So Article 73 and 74, right, of Chapter 11 is about sovereign and independent jurisdiction. Let's talk jurisdiction, Dr. G. Okay, right here, number 1, Empire Morocco. Number 2, United States of America. Number 3, Native Americans, i.e. Indians. All right? So we got 3 different legal personalities. 1, Empire Morocco, that's a legal personality. Number 2, United States of America, that's a legal personality. Number 3, Native Americans, that's a legal personality. I'm talking jurisdiction. So over here, number 1 is about the Empire Morocco. That is the state. We'll talk about that, okay? Mm-hmm. Number 2, that's the United States of America. That's a jurisdiction. United States of America is 50 Union states, all right? That's a jurisdiction. Number 3, Native Americans and all their tribes and reservations. That's a jurisdiction. So therefore, it's in the layers. It's 1, 2, 3. 3 layers. 1, 2, 3 of jurisdiction. All right? We're going to talk about that. This will all come together, okay? So it has to be a distinct, Dr. G. So how do you become distinct? If you run around saying you're American, how does that make you distinct if you're saying you're also Moroccan? It must be a distinction of being Moroccan or American. That makes you distinct. When you say you're Moorish American, you're still saying you're American. That doesn't make you distinct from the United States of America, and they're Americans. So what you're going to learn is, over here is all the words America. On the left side of the board is all the words of Morocco and Moroccans. That's distinct. You see what's happening? This side of the board, Morocco, Moroccans. This side of the board, right side, Americans. It's already distinct. You see how I'm setting it up, Dr. G? We're talking jurisdiction, we're talking land, we're talking nationality, because Moors keep saying nationality, right, is the order of the day, but they're not finishing the sentence, Dr. G. Nationality is recognized by what? The state. The state extends sovereignty to the people. The state says what your nationality is. So where's the state for the Moors? Therefore, if the Moors don't have a state, then how are they invoking a nationality? This is why they call themselves Moorish American, because they don't have a Moorish American state. They're just making it up, Dr. G. You got to ask Taj Rebay, Taj, show me the word Moorish American in the dictionary. Ask Taj that question, Dr. G. Please do that for me. Okay. So this is distinct. I'm taking my time. Okay, distinct. See right here, international law must be distinct. We're following the instructions, Dr. G. You see? When you get on your panel, your panelists, ask them what instructions are they following to decolonize. Ask them that question based upon what legal principles are they using. Are they using international law? Then international law says you must be distinct. We'll talk about that today. Okay, Dr. G, let's scroll on down. This is Resolution 1541. Check this out, Dr. G. Principle number 6. Brother Dre.
Principle 6. A. Non-self-governing territory can be said to have reached a full measure of self-government by A. Emergence as a sovereign independent state, B. Free association with an independent state, or C. Integration with an independent state.
Okay, so from the top, again.
Principle 6. A. Non-self-governing territory can be said to have reached a full measure of self-government by A. Emergence as a sovereign independent state, B. Free association with an independent state, or C. Integration with an independent state.
All right, Dr. G. So you see, international law is creating these different classifications, right? So as the Moors start to rise up, the Moors have to choose one of these 3 legal classifications. We're following the instructions, Dr. G. Ask your panelists, what are they following? This is international law. So box number 1 says emergence as a sovereign independent state. So who's the independent state, Dr. G? Okay, that answer is already in the treaties, right? In the treaties, it's called the Empire of Morocco. Morocco is the sovereign independent state. It is the external sovereign independent state according to the Moorish treaties. All right, so it must emerge because it's been what? Colonized. So the Empire of Morocco must emerge because it's been colonized. You see? So that means you go back to the resolution, principle number 6 under resolution 1541 of 1961. A says emergence as a sovereign independent state. Who's the sovereign independent state? Morocco, for Moroccans. Then it's got a second option. It says free association with an independent state. What's that about, Dr. G? You see, anybody who's choosing number 2 as a classification, free association with an independent state means such as Jamaica. Jamaica's in a free association. Jamaica's free, right? They have independence, but they're also in association with Great Britain. Great Britain's acting like the independent state. So therefore, Jamaica is like an appendix to Great Britain under what's called a Commonwealth. So therefore, even though Jamaica has its independence, it may be a member state of the United Nations, but they're still in a free association with an independent state type of status because they're under Commonwealth. They still have an appendix to Great Britain. We're going to learn more about that. Listen, Section C. This is one of the choices that indigenous people can choose. Integration with an independent state. You see that, Dr. G? So what does integration mean? Integration means you're coming underneath a sovereign, right? So over here, you got Native Americans who have tribes, right? They have reservations, and all their reservations are in an integration with an independent state. So tribes are integrated to come under the jurisdiction of the United States of America. That's what integration means. You're dependent and you come under. So you got United States of America, And you got all Indian tribes underneath that. All Indians, all tribes come under the United States of America, and they come under the United States Federal Corporation. All Indians and all Indian tribes. We'll talk about that today. All right? So the Moors, if in fact they're saying they're Moroccans, they get to pick box A. Emerges as a sovereign independent state. That's the highest status, Dr. G, as Moroccans. Or the Moors going to end up in Section C, integration with an independent state, because Moors are now running around saying they're Indians. And all Indians are integrated underneath the civil and criminal jurisdiction of the United States. All right, so look over here. So, number one, Empire Morocco is also Section A. Emerges as a sovereign independent state. That's the highest status. Right there, Dr. G. Look at number two, United States of America. You know where United States of America fits, Dr. G? Watch this. Right here, Section B. United States of America is a free association with an independent state. Why do I say that? It's because the United States of America is dependent to the Empire of Morocco, because the United States of America keeps saying they're where? In Morocco. Okay, just a moment. Brother Dre, can you read this title right here?
Case concerning rights of nationals of the United States of America in Morocco. Judgment of 27 August 1952.
Okay, Dr. G, this is the case of the ICJ of France versus United States of America, 1952. This is the summary of that judgment, the summary page. Right here, the title says case, right? Case, ICJ case, concerning rights of nationals of the United States of America in Morocco. You see that? So right here, the Americans are in Morocco. United States of America is in Morocco. You see that, Dr. G? So Americans in Morocco and Americas in Morocco, the United States of America's in Morocco, then that automatically puts the United States of America, the United States of America in Section B. They are in a free association with an independent state, because they, by their own records and the treaty, say that America is in Morocco, and Morocco has the highest jurisdiction. Number two comes the United States of America. They're number two in jurisdiction. So guess what? Guess who comes number three? All native tribes are number three in jurisdiction. So therefore, all native tribes fall into Section C, integration with an independent state. So you see how it's a drop down, Dr. G? The highest sovereign is the sovereign independent state. That's Morocco. Number two, the free association with an independent state. That's the United States of America is in contract with Morocco, because the United States of America say they're in Morocco. So therefore, Morocco is the independent state, the external state, the parent state that has the highest status of jurisdiction. And all Indian states come under the jurisdiction of Section B, which is the United States of America. Let me take it back to the board. See, Empire Morocco is the highest status, right? Then you got the United States of America, number two in jurisdiction. And then number three is all native tribes. Anyone call themselves an Indian, Cherokee, they're number three in seniority. They're number three in sovereignty. Therefore, we're talking jurisdiction. So if we're talking jurisdiction, listen, Dr. G, under jurisdiction, it said the official power to make legal decisions and judgments, right? Therefore, United States of America is making legal decisions for all the native tribes. United States of America has jurisdiction over all native tribes and all Indians, 100% of them. They are the sovereign over Indians. Therefore, they get to make all the legal laws and have their courts oversee all Indian tribes. But watch this, Dr. G. We're talking jurisdiction. Therefore, the Empire of Morocco gets to make what? Laws and enforce its consular court over who? The United States of America, because the United States of America is number two in jurisdiction. So therefore, Empire of Morocco has jurisdiction over the United States of America. The United States of America has jurisdiction over Indians. Therefore, the Empire of Morocco makes up its own laws and has its own courts, right, to enforce against any Americans. Any Americans. This must be understood, Dr. G. We're talking jurisdiction. We're talking state. Empire of Morocco is a state. United States of America is a state. right? Then you got what? Cherokee Nation, that's a state. Because that's the nationality, Cherokee. Indian is an adjective. We'll talk about that, Dr. G. Let me give you some proof, Dr. G, that the United States of America is always talking about they're in Morocco. See? Right of protection is in Morocco, Dr. G. Right? So when you scroll down, you'll see the parties. See the United States of America? The United States of America is one of the parties on the treaty, Dr. G. Right? And they're dealing with who? The Sultan of Morocco. You see that, Dr. G? They're dealing with the Sultan. They're dealing with the Sultan of Morocco. Right? So you got the United States of America, and the Sultan of Morocco. And the Sultan of the Empire of Morocco has summoned the United States of America and all other European states to sign this treaty. You see? So you look up there, you can see all kinds of different names up here, such as Germany, Hungary, Denmark, France, Britain, Ireland, you name it. And the Sultan summoned all of them to sign the treaties. You see? I'm going to come back to this treaty. So now we go down to, we go down to Article 7, Dr. G. Listen, because Tosh Reed Bay is not going to show you this. Okay, Article 7 is further proof that the United States of America, so everybody that signed this treaty, Dr. G, recognized Article 7. So the United States of America recognized Article 7 in this treaty. Okay, Brother Dre?
Article 7. Foreign representatives shall inform the Sultan's Minister of Foreign Affairs in writing of any selections of an employee made by them. They shall furnish annually to the said minister a list of the names of the persons protected by them or by their agents throughout the states of the Sultan of Morocco. This list shall be transmitted to the local authorities, who shall consider as persons enjoying protection only those whose names are contained therein.
Okay, Dr. G, so you see right here in Article 7, Section 2, all right, Clause 2, it says right here, throughout the states, plural, of the Sultan of Morocco. So all the states, plural, that signed this treaty are saying they belong, they're the possession, all these states are the possession of the Sultan of Morocco. You see that? That's in the treaty the United States of America signed, recognizing that they are in Morocco. You see that? Going back to the case, Dr. G. Going back to the case. This is why in the case it says America is in Morocco. You see that, Dr. G? Because it's confirmed even in the Treaty of Madrid, Article 7, Section 2, right? They shall furnish annually to the said minister a list of the names of the persons protected by them or by their agents throughout the states of the Sultan of Morocco. So everybody who signed this treaty, their states belong to the Sultan, and the Sultan is an office of the Empire of Morocco. So everybody on this side is subordinate to Morocco because they've all recognized, the United States of America recognized itself as being a state of the Sultan of Morocco. You see that? That's in a treaty, Dr. G. Listen. Okay, let's go to the Treaty of Fez of 1912, Dr. G. You said you want to bring the Moors together, you want to bring us together, Dr. G. This is how you bring us together. You must understand jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is about the state. It's about the nationality of said state and who controls the laws and courts of the territory. And right now, I've already showed you in one Treaty of Madrid, Article 7, Section 2, that even the United States of America recognizes that the Empire of Morocco owns the United States of America. Right? Okay, this is the Treaty of Fez of 1912, where the Sultan allowed France to oversee the Empire of Morocco. All right? So you go down to Article 3, Dr. G. Give you further examples that the states belong to the Sultan. Okay, Brother Dre.
Article 3, the government of the Republic pledges itself to lend constant support to His Sharifian Majesty against all dangers which might threaten his person or throne or endanger the tranquility of his states. The same support shall be given the heir to the throne and his successors.
All right, Dr. G. So Article 3, right here, says the government of the Republic of France pledges itself to lend constant support to His Sharifian Majesty. What Sharifian mean? Sultan. So Sultan Majesty, right? His Sultan. The Sultan is the Majesty, right? His Majesty, the Sultan. So Cherokee means sultan. So it's his sultan, right? So the sultan against all dangers which might threaten his states. You see that? So France was responsible for protecting all the states of the Sultan of Morocco. You see that, Dr. G? This is Article 3. And the United States of America recognized this treaty. They recognized the fact that France was overseeing the pen over the entire empire of Morocco, the Moorish Empire. So right here to there it says, His Cherokee Majesty against all dangers which might threaten his states, plural. States, plural. But keep in mind, Dr. G, this treaty of 1912 plays off of what, Dr. G? It plays off the 1906 Act out of Sarahs. So they're supposed to wake up the Moors, so the Moors be the Moorish government overseeing the Empire of Morocco. Right? So the Moors were supposed to be overseeing the Empire of Morocco as a distinct land and distinct nationality because it's Moroccans in Morocco. You see that, Dr. G? Moroccans in Morocco. We were supposed to be overseeing the territories according to the Act out of Sarahs of 1906. You may want to ask Taj to read it out loud to you in case he has not. It's 123 articles. Okay, Dr. G, listen up. Thank you for your patience. Like I said, Dr. G, if you want to bring people together, first you must understand jurisdiction. So the first jurisdiction in law is the Empire of Morocco. It's the external sovereign independent state that has a sultan that's head of state. And we as Moors, under Article 73 of the Charter, we're supposed to declare our independence and establish the government again and rise up the Empire of Morocco. This is why it says emergence, Dr. G. This is why it says emergence, Dr. G. See right here? This is Resolution 1514 of year 1961. Section 8 says emergence, Dr. G. Emergence, Dr. G, of the empire as a sovereign independent state. It's the emergence of the empire. Okay, so going back to it. The Empire of Morocco has to emerge, Dr. G, because there's no sitting sultan. Right now we're in the month of March of 2024, and there's no central government of the Empire of Morocco. There's no executive branch, legislative branch, or judicial branch. And I'm talking de jure government. There hasn't been any elections to establish the sultan. There hasn't been any elections to put the executive branch, legislative branch, and judicial branch back into place. Humpty Dumpty fell down, Dr. G. We have to put Humpty back together, Dr. G. Under what? Empire of Morocco, which is a jurisdiction. It's the sovereign independent jurisdiction, Dr. G. All right? So we're in the process of putting this back together, Dr. G. All right? So in the meantime, the Wazir Regional Council, which is the WRC organization, is now a placeholder, right, as an intergovernmental organization that several Moroccan states are recognizing this central WRC organization so that all the Moroccan states can come to one table. That way we can start to put the Empire of Morocco back together. So we'll transition, all our Moroccan states come to one round table of the WRC organization. And then from the WRC organization, we're going to transition right into the Empire of Morocco, Dr. G. So you keep saying we need to come together, but guess what? Moroccan states are already doing it, Dr. G. You already asked the question to Taj Bay, do we need states like AMPAC? What did Taj say? Oh, we can't. Well, I'm not trying to say we can't, but we don't need to fix what's already there. Well, wait, okay, Taj, what's already there? You talking about the Empire of Morocco, Taj? Then guess what? We're fixing it, aren't we, Taj? But you still won't acknowledge that. Right? So the WRC and all the Moroccan states are now coming together to put Humpty Dumpty back together to emerge as the Empire of Morocco to have the #1 jurisdiction. You see that? That oversees the United States of America. And the United States of America oversees all Indians. We'll talk about Indians because you got people on your panel, Dr. G, they're saying they're Indians. We're going to talk about that today. All right? Speaking of Indians, what do I have up here, Dr. G? This is the seal of the Cherokee Nation established September 6, 39. That's the Cherokee Nation seal, Dr. G. This is the real de jure government of the Cherokees, and they should be respected, Dr. G. Based out of the territory that's shared with Oklahoma. So you got Oklahoma and you got an Indian tribe. Both of them are sharing a jurisdiction and they're overlapping. They're just simply overlapping, Dr. G. They're overlapping. But the Indian tribe got their own jurisdiction and Oklahoma's got their own jurisdiction. But they're overlapping because they're sharing jurisdiction because Americans are living on the reservation of the Cherokee Nation. You have to look up the case of McGirt versus Oklahoma, the year 2020. You'll learn more about that, okay? McGirt versus Oklahoma. Okay, so this right here, Dr. G, is a constitution. Remember I said you must ask your panelists, do they have a constitution? This is the constitution of the Cherokee Nation, Dr. G. Now, we're not going to read it just yet. I'm coming back to it, but check it out, Dr. G. First of all, we got to talk about Indian nations, right? What is their jurisdiction? We're going to come back to the Constitution, but check it out, Dr. G. Okay, Nova from the top.
Oh, domestic dependent nations.
Okay.
Currently, the U.S. recognizes tribal nations as domestic dependent nations and uses its own legal system to define the relationship between the federal, state, and tribal governments.
Read it again.
Domestic dependent nations. Currently, the United States recognizes tribal nations as domestic dependent nations and uses its own legal system to define the relationship between the federal, state, and tribal governments.
Okay, Dr. G, check it out. So all tribes are in a dependent status. See right here? All tribes are dependent to the United States of America. So all Indian tribes are number 3 in seniority. Let me read it again. Domestic dependent nations. Currently, the United States recognizes tribal nations, that's Indians, all these dark-skinned people saying they're Indians now. Currently, the United States recognizes tribal nations as domestic dependent nations. Check it out, Dr. G, listen closely. And uses its own legal systems, the United States using their legal system, to define the relationship between the federal, state, and tribal governments. You see how they put tribal governments last, Dr. G? That's seniority. They say the feds have jurisdiction over all tribal governments. You see that, Dr. G? You see it? I'll read it again. Currently, the United States recognizes tribal nations as domestic dependent nations, which means they're subjugated, subordinate, and uses its own legal system to define the relationship between the federal, state, and tribal government. Let's go back to jurisdiction, Dr. G. So whoever has jurisdiction gets to make up what? The official power to make legal decisions and judgments. You see that? Mm-hmm. So the United States is saying they have jurisdiction over all tribal governments. Therefore, the United States gets to make up what? Their own legal system over anyone who claims to be Cherokee. Listen, Dr. G, we got to learn about this, Dr. G. You're going to put these people on your show, but they're not going to break it down to you, Dr. G. They will not break it down because they're too busy trying to get their cash app on. Okay, Nola from the top.
Tribal sovereignty in the United States, concept of sovereignty. Tribal sovereignty in the United States is the concept of the inherent authority of indigenous tribes to govern themselves within the borders of the United States.
Pause. So tribal sovereignty in, you hear that, Dr. G? Words matter, Dr. G. In. So the tribes are in the United States. You see that, Dr. G? The tribes are in the United States, even though tribes have their own sovereignty to govern Indians, but they got the last jurisdiction in sovereignty. They come under the United States of America. So all tribes are in the jurisdiction of the United States. You see that? It's the concept of the inherent authority of indigenous tribes to govern themselves within, listen, Dr. G, within the borders of the United States. You see that? So what they said is all tribes are in the jurisdiction of the United States. Therefore, all tribes come under the jurisdiction of the United States. They're number 3 at best. But the Empire of Morocco is number 1 that's got jurisdiction over all United States territories. And the United States of America has jurisdiction over all tribal territories. You follow me so far, Dr. G? So anybody call themselves Indian is accepting a subjugation status. You got black people now going from a United States citizen, they said, I'm a part of a tribe, I'm Indian. They jump down here to number 3. They're actually doing what? They're losing power by becoming an Indian. They're going from a number 2 position down to number 3. And guess what? All native tribes have courts, legislators, and executive branch. All Cherokee nations, all Indian nations have their own governments. So black people and Moors who were Moors, now they're saying the Indians, Dr. G, they don't even realize they're going to a number 3 position. So not only are they going to have Indian reservations overseeing the jurisdiction over them, civil and criminal jurisdiction, but also the United States still got jurisdiction over all Indian tribes. You got to understand what's happening here, Dr. G. Okay, check it out, Dr. G. What's the definition of Indian? Okay, Brother Dre.
Indian, adjective. 1. Relating to India or its people, customs, or languages.
Read it again.
Indian, adjective. 1. Relating to India or its people, customs, or languages.
So Indian is an adjective. Adjective is not a nationality. You got people running around here saying, I'm Indian. Indian what? Tell me the nationality. Is it Cherokee? Just can't say you're Indian. Indian is an adjective. It describes what? A noun. So now you got to tell me the nationality. Is it Cherokee? You see that? Listen.
2. Relating to or denoting indigenous peoples of North, Central, and South America, especially those of North America.
So why are they throwing this word in here, especially those of North America? Why are they underscoring that? It's because the Indians are saying that what? Native Americans. And America is a jurisdiction. It's a made-up jurisdiction since 1507. Canadians don't call themselves Americans. Mexicans don't call themselves Americans. Panamanians don't call themselves Americans. Colombians don't call themselves Americans. People in Venezuela don't call themselves Americans. People in Chile don't call themselves Americans. Cuba don't call themselves Americans. Jamaicans don't call themselves Americans. Nobody calls themselves Americans except for those such persons of the United States of America. It's a jurisdiction, falsely called a continent. So therefore, you must understand the United States of America got jurisdiction over all Native Americans, and this is why they said especially North America, because they're trying to do what? Talking about Indians. It's an adjective though, but watch. Watch this. Watch this, Dr. G. Listen. Watch this. This is interesting, Dr. G. Listen. If I go to Etymology Dictionary, I type in Indian, right? Indian. I type it in. Okay. Check this out, Dr. G. This is very interesting. At least I find it interesting. Okay. From the top, Nova.
Indian, an adjective, a noun.
Pause. Say it again.
Indian, adjective, noun.
Say it again.
Indian, adjective, noun.
You see that, Dr. G? So the 8 parts of speech, they're saying Indian is adjective and a noun. But this is Etymology Dictionary. Why is it talking about 2 parts of speech? We're getting ready to learn why. Right? Keep in mind, we're talking about Indians, Dr. G. Because you got these black people, these Moors talking about the Indians, and they got to do some forensics and read and find out what is an Indian. Right? Right here, Etymology Dictionary says it's an adjective and a noun. But notice they put adjective first. Sequential order. Right? Okay. No, from the top.
Indian in India or South Asia pertaining to India, circa 1300, noun or adjective, from late Latin Indianus, from India.
Pause. It's all over.
Inhabitant of India or South Asia pertaining to India, circa 1300, noun or adjective.
Pause. You see now they switched the noun and the adjective, but they start off saying first what? Adjective, the noun. Now they switch, say, noun, adjective. But why they switch it? Because now they're telling you the real noun is what? The people pertaining to what? India. Over in the east, near Africa. So India is the real noun, because that's the name of what? The land. India, right, is the land. And then the people are Indian, right? Right? We're talking now, India, Indian. This is what they say. Listen, what do I have here? I got passports. If you go to India's passports, let's choose one. This is India's passports. Right here it says what? Straight from the top.
Republic of India.
Okay. And you scroll down, right? And it says what under nationality?
Indian.
I know it's hard to see. Say it again, nationality.
Nationality is Indian.
Uh-huh. So it's India, right? Republic of India. And the nationality is what? Indian. You see that? Nationality Indian, right? Listen. Okay, let's try to look at another one. Okay, it's India's passport. What does it say?
Republic of India.
Okay. What does it say the nationality is?
Nationality is Indian.
See that? Now. The people are named after the land, and the land is named after the people. India, Indian. This is why they said now. Okay, so now you go back to Etymology Dictionary. So, who's the adjective? That's a description. That's a description, right? It's describing who? That's a generic word for who? Native Americans, which is an adjective because now you got to quote what? The nationality. So as soon as you say you're just simply Indian, that's an adjective. Now you got to say the nationality because in India, it's India, Indians. You see? Land, nationality. But over here in the West, people call themselves Indian, but that's not a nationality. That's an adjective. Now you got to say the nationality. Oh, you say you Cherokee? Okay. You say you're Cherokee, huh? All right. Let's go back to Cherokee's constitution. Let's start at the top. Okay, Brother Dre.
As principal chief of the Cherokee Nation, I proudly take an oath to uphold the Constitution of the Cherokee Nation. Whether or not you take an oath, all of us have a duty as citizens to become familiar with our Constitution, the fundamental source of legal authority for the Cherokee Nation.
Paul, so this is the chief talking about the Cherokee Nation, which is a nationality, and they're claiming they have a constitution. They have a defined territory of the Cherokee Nation, which is geographically located somewhere near Oklahoma. They're overlapping. But you got these people, Dr. G. Listen to me, Dr. G. You got these people on your show saying they're Cherokees. But you need to ask them, Dr. G, where's their Cherokee national identification from the Cherokee Nation? Because the Cherokee Nation's got a constitution. What constitution, Dr. G, is Rare Bird saying she derives her authority from? And what treaties is she using, Dr. G? Listen, second paragraph.
Our Constitution was crafted by delegates to our 1999 Constitutional Convention and became effective in 2003. It was approved by the Cherokee people and further shaped through amendments as well as court decisions interpreting the very treaties referenced in the Constitution. Our Constitution embodies a vital link in an unbroken chain of governing law from time immemorial of the Cherokee people.
All right, so the Cherokee people in their public address are invoking what? They're saying they're Cherokee people, so they claim a nationality. They say they have a constitution, right? And they're also invoking what? They're invoking treaties, right? They're invoking treaties, Dr. G. What treaties is Rare Bird invoking? What constitution is she invoking? Where is her reservation located, Dr. G, for her primary residence? Because she's claiming now she's not a U.S. citizen. Ask her how she renounced her citizenship of the United States. These are questions you got to ask to your panelists. All your panelists, ask them about their constitution and the treaties they're invoking as their power. And are they the official people sitting in offices. This is the chief reading it from the Cherokee Nation. And you got these black people around here, these dark-faced people claiming they're Cherokees, but are they on the registration of this Cherokee Nation? No. Continue.
Part of my oath of office is promote the culture, heritage, and traditions of the Cherokee Nation. An informed citizenry is vital to our success as a nation. Accordingly, I hope you enjoy learning more about your government by reading your copy of the Cherokee Nation Constitution.
You see that? You see that, Dr. G, how this official is talking? He's the chief. He's been elected as an officer. He's the head of state of that Cherokee tribe. And they got 3 branches of government. Check it out, Dr. G. Ask Rare Bird if she got a constitution. Is she a member of the Cherokees? That's the question. Tell her to prove it. Okay, continue.
Constitution of the Cherokee Nation, 1999, Preamble. We, the people of the Cherokee Nation, in order to preserve our sovereignty, enrich our culture, achieve and maintain a desirable measure of prosperity and the blessings of freedom, acknowledging with humility and gratitude the goodness, aid, and guidance of the sovereign ruler of the universe in permitting us to do so. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the government of the Cherokee Nation.
All right, so keep in mind, Dr. G, going back to the Charter of 1945, remember we read in Article 73, Section E, Dr. G. Section E, remember, it was about what? Constitution considerations may require. That's Section E. You see what the Cherokees are doing? They're following the instructions of law. Right? The general law, the principles of law. These are the instructions, Dr. G. If you don't have no constitution, you don't have no defined territory, and you don't have no government, then you just running your mouth. You see what's happening, Dr. G? So you want to bring people together, but these are not the officials of a state. Everybody on your panel are nobodies. Absolutely nobodies that hold an office. They have no constitution. They have no government. They have no defined territory. But yet the Cherokees, even though they're number 3 in seniority and jurisdiction, at least they have a constitution and a government. And you got these people faking it like they're Cherokees, asking if they have a nationality card from this Cherokee Nation. Since they say the Cherokee, Dr. G, listen, continue.
Article 1, Federal Relationship. The Cherokee Nation reaffirms its sovereignty and mutually beneficial relationship with the United States of America.
You see that, Dr. G? So you have to be in relationship with another state. So the Cherokee Nation reaffirms its sovereignty and mutual beneficial relationship with the United States of America. You see that, Dr. G? So that's a mutual agreement of treaties. They both recognize each other. You see what's happening, Dr. G? So look over here. The Empire of Morocco recognized the United States of America when, Dr. G? November 1777. Sidi Muhammad, the Sultan of Morocco, recognized the United States of America in 13 colonies. November 1777. And then the United States of America signed a treaty with the Empire of Morocco, right? 1786. Fully ratified 1787. So these two have already recognized each other. It's a mutual recognition, Dr. G. But you got these foolish people out here saying they're Indians. They don't have no tribal affiliation that the United States recognizes. But they talk about, oh, we're just going to do our own thing. That's patently frivolous and arbitrary and capricious, Dr. G. If you find out some people are telling you they just doing their own thing, they don't need no recognition from the United States. The United States has already recognized the Empire of Morocco. The Empire of Morocco recognized the United States of America. That's already solidified. That's well settled. But you see what the Cherokees are doing? They're putting it on the record, Dr. G. It's in their constitution, Dr. G. The Cherokee Nation is reaffirming, Dr. G, its sovereignty and mutual beneficial relationship with the United States of America. You see that? See how it's listed? Federal relationship. If the tribes don't have a relationship with the United States of America, then they don't exist, Dr. G. Don't let these people come on your show fooling you like they're Indians and they're not recognized by no Indian tribe or reservation that the United States of America also recognizes. You see right here? This is recognition. Morocco, United States of America. Those are recognitions. Right here, United States of America, Cherokee Nation. That's recognition, Dr. G. Tell Rare Bird, where's her Constitution that the United States of America recognizes? It don't exist. Ask Taj Bay, where's the Constitution that the United States of America recognizes Taj Bay? You say you're Moorish American? Okay, where's your Constitution where the United States of America recognizes the Moorish American Constitution? It don't exist. There's no federal relationship. There's no international relationship. Continuing, section 2.
Article 2, territorial jurisdiction. The boundaries of the Cherokee Nation territory shall be those described in the patents of 1838 and 1846, diminished only by the Treaty of July 19, 1866, and the Act of March 3rd, 1893.
Okay, so now look what they're doing. Territorial jurisdiction. That's for their territory. It's defined territory, and they're saying they have a government, and they're getting to relations with another state. So the Cherokees getting in relations with another state. They have a defined territory. That's they're talking about territorial jurisdiction, right? They have a government, they have a constitution, and they have treaties. Rare Bird don't have none of the above. Neither does Rod Hayes, Dane Calloway, Top Cat. None of these people. All they got is Cash App and donation buttons. That's all they got. Selling books and apparel. All this propaganda they're teaching. They're not Indians. They're not Native Americans either, because America wasn't established until 1507. Christopher Columbus came over here in 1492. Amerigo Vespucci came over here in 1502. He took all his works back to Europe. Amerigo Vespucci. Then a German map maker by the name of Martin Marcy Mueller. Martin Marcy Mueller named the continent America in 1507 after Amerigo Vespucci. So how the hell you keep saying you're an indigenous American when the word America didn't even come into the vocabulary until 1507? That's not an indigenous ancient name. America is a modern name since 1507. It's barely 500 years old as a name. You got to understand what I'm talking about. Watch this. Bill of Rights. I'm listening.
Article 3, Bill of Rights. The people of the Cherokee Nation shall have and do affirm the following rights. Section 1. The judicial process of the Cherokee Nation shall be open to every person and entity within the jurisdiction of the Cherokee Nation. Speedy and certain remedy and equal protection shall be afforded under the laws of the Cherokee Nation.
You see that? Dr. G, ask these questions. Does Rare Bird have laws? She got statutes that's passed by the legislative branch. They got equal protections as Indians. They claim to be Cherokees, but Rare Bird don't have no national card from the Cherokee Nation. So listen, Section 1, the judicial, right? Judicial process. Now they're talking about their courts. The judicial process of the Cherokee Nation shall be open to every person and entity, right, within the jurisdiction of the Cherokee Nation. You know what the jurisdiction is? The reservation. This is why I say anybody calling themselves an Indian, their primary residence must be where? On the reservation, because the reservation is about what? Jurisdiction. You see that? If you're not on the reservation, then you're outside the jurisdiction. Rare Bird don't live on no Indian reservation. Dane Calloway don't live on no reservation. No, none of these fools live on an Indian reservation. You must understand, the only thing they want is to sell you packages. They're faking it, Dr. G. They're faking it, Dr. G. They're not Indians. They're just using that word to sell books, sell apparel, sell packages, Dr. G. All of them ain't number black people. They're still citizens of the United States. And that's the bottom line, Dr. G. Listen, there's no laws. Tell me the laws that Rare Bird's talking about of the Cherokee Nation. Ain't no laws. They're lying to you, Dr. G. Let's continue. Section 2.
Section 2. In all criminal proceedings, the accused shall have the right to counsel confront all adverse witnesses, have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in favor of the accused, and to a speedy public trial by an impartial jury. The accused shall have the privilege against self-incrimination, and the Cherokee Nation shall not twice try or punish an accused for the same offense. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted.
You see that, Dr. G? You see why these Moors and these black people don't want to be a part of a real reservation? Because black people and these fake Moors and the Indians will have to come under criminal proceedings on the reservation. You see, Moors are rogue. They don't want nobody to govern them, so they just make up stuff. But the reality is, Dr. G, everybody comes under somebody's civil and criminal jurisdiction. Everybody. If you standing on soil, there's a jurisdiction that oversees you. This is why Rare Bird and all these fools keep saying they're Indians. They say, oh, we just made up our own tribe. You know what they're saying? They're afraid to go be a real Cherokee national because the Cherokees got 3 branches of government, and one of those branches is the judicial branch. And they will be tried for breaking the laws of the Cherokees. Will be a criminal proceeding if you break Cherokee laws. This is why Rare Bird ain't claiming she's a part of no real reservation. Rod Hayes ain't going to these reservations because they would, what? He would be dealing with criminal proceedings of the Cherokee laws, Dr. G. They're lying to you, Dr. G. They're not Indians. They don't want to come under the jurisdiction of nothing. They just want to make money off of Cash App and selling books and apparel, just like Dane Calloway. Section 3.
Section 3. The right of trial by jury shall remain inviolate, and the Cherokee Nation shall not deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation.
So it's talking about juries, right? Trial. See Rod Hayes, Top Cat, Rare Bird, and all the rest of the birds out there, they don't want to deal with the trial by jury on the Cherokee real laws. You see that? That's why they just write books and ask you for donations and keep telling you, hit the like button, hit the like button. Or y'all ain't donating tonight, or y'all ain't sponsoring my channel tonight. All they care about is money, Dr. G. They're faking it, Dr. G. And you got a whole panel, right, Dr. G? You got a whole panel, Dr. G, full of fakers. They only on there so they can get their image out there so everybody give them some more donations and buy their apparels and books. But yet they're not even the real Cherokees of the Cherokee Nation. This is shameful. And shout out to the Cherokee Nation. I do apologize to the Cherokee Nation for the foolishness. The foolishness. This is identity theft to say you're a Cherokee and you're not. Stop this propaganda. Section 4.
Section 4. The council shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise of religion or abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people to peaceably assemble or to petition the nation for a redress of grievances.
Citizenship.
Article 5, citizenship.
Pause. Listen, Dr. G. Citizenship. You got these people claiming to be Indians, Dr. G. Rare Bird say she's Cherokee. Okay, where's her citizenship for the Cherokee tribe, Dr. G? She gonna tell you, oh, we don't mess with them pale-faced Indians. Guess what? The pale-faced Indians are in what? Relations through treaties and constitutions with the United States of America. Nobody can just wake up one day and put together a group and say, we got a tribe and we deserve some rights. It don't work like that, Dr. G. That's why they only care about their donations and their cash out and keep saying, hit the like button, hit the like button. Oh, y'all ain't sponsoring me tonight? What's up with y'all? This is all you keep hearing them say on YouTube. They only care about money, Dr. G. How the heck you going to put together people like that to bring us together and they only care about money? Because let me tell you something about money, Dr. G, ain't no honor amongst thieves. So how you going to put together a group of people who only care about money? It'll never work. First of all, they're not even following the instructions of international law. From the top.
Article 5, citizenship. Section 1. All citizens of the Cherokee Nation must be original enrollees or descendants of original enrollees listed on the Dawes Commission rolls. including the Delaware Cherokees of Article 2 of the Delaware Agreement dated the 8th day of May 1867, and the Shawnee Cherokees of Article 3 of the Shawnee Agreement dated the 9th day of June 1869, and or their descendants. The Cherokee Nation recognizes the basic rights retained by all distinct people and groups affiliated with the Cherokee Nation, retained from time immemorial to remain a separate and distinct people. Nothing in this Constitution shall be construed to prohibit the Cherokee, Shawnee, or Delaware Cherokee from pursuing their inherent right to govern themselves, provided that it does not diminish the boundaries or jurisdiction of the Cherokee Nation or conflict with Cherokee law.
All right, so right here, you keep hearing Top Cat and all the rest of these fools talking about, man, what's your genealogy, man? What's your blood pedigree, man? Guess what the Cherokee Nation says to you, Top Cat, on the citizenship? Section 1, all citizens of the Cherokee Nation must be original enrollees or descendants of original enrollees listed on the Dawes Commission rolls. Is Top Cat on the roll? No. Is he on the registration? No. None of these people claim to be Indians on any registration. Listen. So therefore, enrollees listed on the Dawes Commission rolls, including the Delaware Cherokees of Article 2 of the Delaware Agreement, dated 8th May of May 1867, and the Shawnee Cherokees of Article 3 of the Shawnee Agreement, dated 9th day of June 1869, and or their descendants. The Cherokee Nation recognizes the basic rights, listen, retained by all distinct people and groups affiliated with Cherokee Nation, retained from time immemorial to retain a separate distinct people. Nothing in this Constitution but construed to prohibit the Cherokee, Shawnee, or Delaware Cherokee from pursuing their inherent right to govern themselves. Now listen, this is listed under what? Citizenship. So what they're saying is, when you keep hearing these fools on YouTube ask Todd Street Bayer, they asking Todd's question, what's your pedigree, Todd? What's your genealogy, Todd? Guess what, Top Cat? You're not the competent authority to be asking anybody, because you yourself, sir, Top Cat, are not even a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. You're not an official of the Cherokee Nation. How you get to ask somebody what their political status is when you can't even prove your own? Did the Cherokee Nation recognize you as a citizen of the Cherokee Nation, Mr. Top Cat? Dane Calloway, Rod Hayes, Rare Birds, and all the rest of the birds out there? Has the Cherokee Nation accepted your citizenship? So how dare you ask somebody else, what's your blood pedigree, when the Cherokee Nation hasn't even recognized you, Top Cat? Stop asking people stupid questions when you yourself can't answer the question because the Cherokee Nation hasn't recognized you all. This is ridiculous. Listen, check this out. Section 2.
Section 2, there shall be established a Cherokee register to be kept by the registrar for the inclusion of any Cherokee for citizenship purposes in the Cherokee Nation who presents the necessary evidence of eligibility for registration. Council may empower the registrar to keep and maintain other vital records.
Read it again.
Section 2. There shall be established a Cherokee register to be kept by the registrar for the inclusion of any Cherokee for citizenship purposes in the Cherokee Nation who presents the necessary evidence of eligibility for registration.
Paul, so all these dark-faced so-called Indians are not even on the registration of an Indian tribe. They never even applied. There's no application. Their application will have to be accepted by the Cherokee Nation. So they just run around claiming they're Cherokees and they're not even on the registration. This is a constitution I'm reading. I'm not making this stuff up. Rod Hayes ain't gonna read this out loud. Top Cat ain't gonna read this out loud. Dane Calloway not gonna read this out loud. Rare Birds not going to read this out loud. This is the Constitution of Cherokee Nation that these imposters who keep saying they're Cherokees, they can't prove it. Prove that you're Cherokee, because the Cherokee Nation will have you on the registration because you're dealing with what? A registrar. You see that? The registrar. The registrar will have you on the list. Okay, Dr. G. Listen, Dr. G, ask your people on the panel, where are they registered? Where's their name registered? for their nation, their state. Ask Tashri Bey, where is his name listed with a state? Moroccan state. Ask Abdullah Iltimosi Bey, where is your name registered, Abdullah? With a Moroccan state. Ask Lamont Il and Yaku Rom Il, ask them where they're registered with a Moorish state. Ask Rare Bird, is her name with a Cherokee nation. But yet they run around acting like they the principals of it. And they're not an official whatsoever, much less recognized as a national or citizen of said state, but they're acting like they're holding some official offices. This is ridiculous. Shameful. I'm trying to help you, Dr. G, but I know you don't want to hear it. I know, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Here we go. Here we go. You say you want to bring the people together, Dr. G, but let's talk about it. Matter of fact, I'm going to pause right there. I think that's a good place to leave it, Dr. G. Section 2 of the Cherokee Nation's Constitution said people have to register, Dr. G. Ask them, have they registered, Dr. G? All right, listen, Dr. G. Here we go. Let's talk about tribal sovereignty in the United States. I got to talk about this, Dr. G, because you got people going from being, check this out, Dr. G. So you got the United States of America, who people say they're American, that's the nationality. But you also people got to say they're African American. Check that out, Dr. G. Listen. African American, Moorish American. So everybody's saying they're American. United States of America, for American, you got African Americans, Moorish American. What's the common denominator here? Everybody's coming under this American, American, American. Watch this. Native American, Indian American, Cherokee Nation, Indian Reservation, and tribes all come under what? They're all saying they're what? Americans. All Indians say they're what? Indigenous Americans. All of them say that. So what's the distinction if Indians are saying they're Americans, the United States of America say you're in America, the African Americans are in America, the Moorish Americans are in America, the Indians are in America, everybody's in America, which makes them all what? Americans. It makes no distinction. There's no distinction between African Americans, Moorish Americans, and Indian Americans. They're all saying they're Americans, which now they don't realize they're invoking what? Jurisdiction. The jurisdiction is what? American. You see that? You see that? It's just American. Look over here. Morocco. See that? Morocco. Moroccan. In Morocco. Because we're Moors. Moor is abbreviation for Moroccan. And everything over here is about Moroccan. Moor, right? Moroccan, Moroccan, Moroccan. It's about Moroccan treaties, Moroccan laws, Moroccan regulations, Moroccan taxes, Moroccan consular court. Because it's all about Morocco. Over here is all Americans. And they're trying to make distinctions of what type of Americans they are. They're all fighting over the word America. So you got Moors. Listen, before we read this, watch this, Dr. G. Everybody on here, except for Abdullah. Abdullah's the only one that knows he's in Morocco. He's the only one on that whole panel. Everybody else on here is saying they're Americans. Abdullah's the only one know that he's Moroccan, but yet Abdullah hasn't pledged his allegiance back to a Moroccan state. So therefore he's still what? A Moorish subject, i.e. he's still what? American. Because he don't recognize himself a Moroccan because no Moroccan state has accepted Abdullah's application to return to the Empire of Morocco. So everybody up here is fighting. So you got Indians arguing with Moors because Moors keep saying they're what? The true Americans. Now you got Rare Bird saying she's the Native American. So you got Moorish Americans, listen, Moorish Americans arguing with so-called Native Americans. And they both don't realize they just simply American. They ain't making no distinction. What's the only distinction between the two? This word Moorish and Native. But Moorish and Native mean nothing because what matters is what's on the back end. America, that's the hyphen, that's the surname, that's your adopted name, American. So it's foolish for people to get on here and argue with themselves and all of them are Americans. Going nowhere fast. You know what this is? This is like dwarfs arguing about who's the tallest. That's what this is dwarfs arguing about who's the tallest of the dwarfs. That's all this is. This is ridiculous. Who cares who's the tallest of the dwarf? You're still a dwarf. You're still down here. You ain't rising up. You ain't emerging. As the Empire of Morocco, you still over here in a dwarf status. You got dwarfs arguing over who's the tallest of dwarfs. That's what's happening. It's ridiculous. Listen, let's talk about sovereignty, because I got to talk about this because black people are waking up by the day. And they finding out, oh man, I'm Moorish American. They say, no, man, you Indian. Or they wake up and say, oh, I'm Indian. And the Moorish Americans say, no, you Moorish American. It's nothing but a lateral movement. You're going from being black to now you jump over here and be Indian. You're going nowhere fast because you still come under the jurisdiction of the United States of America. So you black, you say you Moorish American. It's a lateral movement because Moorish Americans are still citizens of the United States of America. So you're going nowhere fast. You're not going forward. You're going side to side. Whether you pick Indian or you pick Moorish American, it's a lateral movement. It's not forward. Because everybody's still what? Americans. This is what Dr. G don't understand. You're not creating something that's distinct. If you say you're Moroccan in Morocco, that's distinct. As soon as you say you're Indian or Cherokee, you're still claiming a jurisdiction that you're in where? America. You're still claiming to be in America because you're saying you're American. It must be a distinct nationality, distinct territory, distinct jurisdiction. This is distinct. Morocco is distinct. Everybody over here is American. Do you see the correlation what's happening here? No one's writing this down so they can see it with their eyes and just visualize it and see America, 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 America. It's all American. And you don't realize the United States is so happy that you're saying you're Indian. They're so happy when you say you're Moorish American. They're so happy when you say you're African American. Because everybody's still claiming they're what? In the jurisdiction of what? America, when you're supposed to be getting out of it and come back to the jurisdiction of Morocco. Listen, from the top, no.
Tribal sovereignty in the United States is the concept of the inherent authority of indigenous tribes to govern themselves within the borders of the United States.
Read it again.
Tribal sovereignty in the United States is the concept of the inherent authority of indigenous tribes to govern themselves within the borders of the United States.
So right here it says tribal sovereignty, right? Tribal sovereignty in the United States is the concept of inherent authority of indigenous tribes to govern themselves within the borders of the United States. See there? You're within the jurisdiction of the United States of America. Therefore, the United States of America has jurisdiction over all Indians and tribes. So you got black people going from being African American to being Native American, so you subjugate yourself even further. You went from the number 2 spot to the number 3 spot. You see what Dane Calloway is doing to you? You see what Rod Hayes and Dane Calloway telling y'all take the 3rd spot. Because at least as a citizen of the United States, you got more status, higher status than the Indian reservations. But if you really want to talk sovereignty, you want to talk about who has seniority, it's Moroccans in Morocco, because Morocco's an empire. You're standing on it right now. I'm standing on Morocco right now. It's about jurisdiction. And right here, you see how they got it in bold? This is Wikipedia. Look what they put in bold. Tribal sovereignty in the United States. You're in the United States as a jurisdiction. When you say you're Indian, you're not in the jurisdiction of Morocco because you're acquiescing to say you're in the United States jurisdiction. You must say you're in Morocco. And then you got to prove it. A Moroccan state got to recognize you. And then hand you what? State ID. You got to renounce the jurisdiction of the United States to be no longer a citizen of the United States. From the top.
Tribal sovereignty in the United States is the concept of the inherent authority of indigenous tribes to govern themselves within the borders of the United States. Originally, the United States federal government recognized Indian tribes as independent nations and came to policy agreements with them via treaties. As the U.S. accelerated its westward expansion, internal political pressure grew from Indian removal, but the pace of treaty making grew regardless. The Civil War forged the United States into a more centralized and nationalistic country, fueling a full-bore assault on tribal culture and institutions, and pressure for Native Americans to assimilate. In the Indian Appropriations Act of 1871, Congress prohibited any future treaties. This move was steadfastly opposed by Native Americans. Currently, the United States recognizes tribal nations as domestic dependent nations and uses its own legal system to define the relationship between the federal, state, and tribal governments.
All right, listen.
Native American sovereignty and the Constitution. The United States Constitution mentions Native American tribes 3 times. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 2 states that representatives on direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states, excluding Indians not taxed. According to Story's commentaries on the United States Constitution, there were Indians also in several and probably in most of the states at that period, who were not treated as citizens and yet who did not form a part of independent communities or tribes exercising general sovereignty and powers of government within the boundaries of the states. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution states that Congress shall have the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes, determining that Indian tribes were separate from the federal government, the states, and foreign nations. And the 14th Amendment, Section 2, amends the apportionment of representatives in Article 1, Section 2 above. These constitutional provisions and subsequent interpretations by the Supreme Court, see below, today often summarized in 3 principles of United States Indian law. Territorial sovereignty, tribal authority on Indian land is organic and is not granted by the states in which Indian lands are located. Plenary power doctrine, Congress and not the executive branch or judicial branch has ultimate authority with regard to matters affecting the Indian tribes. Federal courts give greater deference to Congress on Indian matters than on other subjects.
So read plenary power doctrine. Listen, for all the people who want to be Indians, listen who has jurisdiction over you. Okay, I'm listening.
Plenary power doctrine. Congress, and not the executive branch or judicial branch, has ultimate authority with regard to matters affecting the Indian tribes.
Pause, read again.
Plenary power doctrine. Congress, and not the executive branch or judicial branch, have authority with regard to matters affecting the Indian tribes.
So the United States legislative branch has authority over all tribes. You see that? So the United States of America is in the number 2 spot. Indian reservations and tribes are in the number 3 spot. But who's in the number 1 spot? The Empire of Morocco. Because the United States of America recognizes themselves as being in the jurisdiction of of Morocco, right? Listen. Okay, this is the International Court of Justice case. Let's read the title again.
Case concerning rights of nationals of the United States of America in Morocco.
Read it again.
Case concerning rights of nationals of the United States of America in Morocco.
So the United States of America is in Morocco, so therefore America is in Morocco, therefore Americans are in Morocco, so therefore Morocco have the highest status of jurisdiction. So Dane Calloway, Rod Hayes, Top Cat, Rare Birds, and the like are dragging all the Moors from being citizens of the United States, and they're subjugating them to say they're Indians, while simultaneously they can't even prove that they have Cherokee Nation identification. which means they're still what? Citizens of the United States, claiming they're Indians, but they just making a bunch of cash app money off of you, off this propaganda, because they're lying, because they're not Cherokee Indians. You gotta understand what I'm saying. Listen, this is gonna be interesting. Listen, Moors. I told what I'm about to read next. Please pay attention, Dr. G. This is very important what I'm about to read next, Dr. G. Please pay attention. I tried to tell the Moors that the United States is plotting to get all the Moors and black people to say they're Indians. I said that in AMPAC study session. Go back and look at AMPAC study session when I talked about Indians before. And I said the United States, when they left the case of France versus United States of America in 1952, the ICJ told the United States that they can maintain jurisdiction over Moors as long as Moors keep acquiescing. What does acquiescence mean? It means they're not calling themselves Moroccans and they're not trying to reestablish their Moroccan governments. So the United States right now under COINTELPRO. What is COINTELPRO? That's counterintelligence program. The United States right now is trying to get people to say that they're Indians. They're actually pushing this narrative. Listen to me, Dr. G. Let me prove it to you. That y'all are being set up by Rod Hayes. Okay. Brother Dre.
Select provisions of the 1866 Reconstruction Treaties between the United States and Oklahoma tribes.
Okay, so now you're about to read a report from the Congress of the United States and the Senate coming together in committees. You see this word right here? Reconstruction. So in 1866, they got together with the 5 civilized tribes, the Cherokee nations, etc. And they went in and reconstructed the treaties, right? In 1866, they created a new provision. In 1866, listen to me, the year 1866, the United States wanted the Indian tribes to allow the Moors to be citizens of the Indian reservations. I'm going to say it again. So in 1866, the United States went in and tried to reconstruct the Indian treaties to say Moors can be adopted citizens of Indian treaties. I'm going to say it again. The United States went in to reconstruct the treaties. So in 1866, they put in provisions to let Moors become citizens of Indian reservations. Because Moors were never citizens of an Indian reservation. Moors ain't never been Indians. We've always been Moors, i.e. Moroccans. Listen. Check it out. COINTELPRO. Listen. Okay, from the top.
Hearing before the Committee on Indian Affairs, United States Senate, 117th Congress, second session, July 27, 2022.
Say the date again.
July 27, 2022.
Say it again.
July 27, 2022.
So this is recent, right? That the United States is coming together to start their COINTELPRO program because they're trying to invoke the 1866 Indian Treaty that told the Indian reservations to let the Moors become citizens of the Indian reservation. That way the Moors will start calling themselves what? Indians. Because Indians fall down here in the third position of jurisdiction in order to keep the Moors from waking up to find out they're Moroccans in Morocco, so they can't go back to the first position of sovereignty and jurisdiction. So watch this. This is 2022. Please keep that in mind, Dr. G. This is recent. We're in the year 2024 right now. Okay. Come on, Brother Dre from the top.
Select provisions of the 1866 Reconstruction Treaties between the United States and Oklahoma tribes. Wednesday, July 27, 2022. U.S. Senate Committee on Indian Affairs, Washington, D.C. The committee met pursuant to notice at 2:30 p.m. in room 628, Dirksen Senate Office Building. Honorable Brian Schatz, Chairman of the committee, presiding. Opening statement of Honorable Brian Schatz, U.S. Senator from Hawaii. The chairman, good afternoon. Welcome to the committee's oversight hearing on select provisions of the 1866 Reconstruction Treaties between the United States and Oklahoma tribes. In the 1830s, the U.S. forcibly removed the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Muskogee, Creek, and Seminole nations from their ancestral homelands in the southeast to Oklahoma on the Trail of Tears. At the same time, individual members of the 5 tribes enslaved black people, continuing to do so through the Civil War.
Pause. Read this part right here again.
Individual members of the 5 tribes enslaved black people.
Pause. Read this part right here again.
Individual members of the 5 tribes enslaved black people.
Pause. Read this part right here again.
Individual members of the 5 tribes enslaved black people.
So black people were slaves of the Indian reservations. And you wonder why you ended up wearing a bunch of feathers. Now you're trying to go back to the same Indian reservation where you were slaves. But you're going to find out that you were freed from the reservations. Why? Because when Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation 1863, it freed all slaves, even including the slaves that was on the Indian reservation. So right here, Congress in the year 2022 said that black people were what? Slaves. They were enslaved by the 5 tribes. You rushing back to be a so-called Indian, you don't realize you were freed from the damn reservations because you were slaves. I didn't say it. This is what they said in 2022. The House of Representatives and the Senate is talking about you, black people. Run around here saying you're Indians and can't prove it, and you're forcing your way to go back to a reservation, and you were slaves on the reservation. Rod Hayes ain't gonna tell you that. Dane Calloway not gonna tell you that. Rare Bird not gonna tell you that. Top Cat's not gonna tell you that. But the United States is talking about it out loud. See, I'm a man of law. I read law out loud. I read legislation out loud. It's about law and equity. It ain't about your mouth just running all the time for 2 hours. You got to read law. You got to understand law and history goes together. Look what they said about black people in the year 2022 about what happened in the 1860s. Take it from the top.
The chairman, good afternoon. Welcome to the committee's oversight hearing on select provisions of the 1866 Reconstruction Treaties between the United States and Oklahoma tribes. In the 1830s, the U.S. forcibly removed the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Muskogee Creek, and Seminole nations from their ancestral homelands in the southeast to Oklahoma on the Trail of Tears. At the same time, individual members of the 5 tribes enslaved black people, continuing to do so through the Civil War. In 1866, the 5 tribes signed treaties with the United States, which further reduced their land holdings and contained provisions about emancipation of enslaved peoples who were collectively referred to as the Freedmen.
So read this part right here again from right here. In 1866.
In 1866, the 5 tribes signed treaties with the United States, which further reduced their land holdings and contained provisions about emancipation of enslaved peoples who were collectively referred to as the Freedmen.
So the Freedmen, right? The Freedmen was who? The black people. The black people were freed from who? The Indians. But you running back to the reservation because you think you got some entitlement, but just keep listening. Watch what happens. Now keep in mind, the Freedmen are who really in reality? Moors. Moors are the freedmen. Moors is the land of the Moors. The United States of America is located where? In Morocco. So therefore, if the land is Morocco, then the people are what? Moroccan. So the Moroccans, i.e. the Moors, are these freedmen that they're calling black people. So the Indians had Moors enslaved. And these same black people who are actually Moors are trying to run back to these reservations where they were enslaved. I didn't say it. We're reading this from the House of Representatives.
Now, for the first them in the history of the United States Senate, these sovereign signatory tribes, freedmen, descendants, and the administration have an opportunity to present their views on the 1866 treaties for the record. I understand and acknowledge that this is a difficult conversation, because this issue at its core involves injustices perpetrated by the United States government more than a century ago against both Native Americans and African Americans.
Pause. You see right there, they're making a distinction against both. See, that's 2 legal personalities. both Native Americans and African Americans. But they're still claiming them as American because they're talking what? Jurisdiction over who? African Americans and who else? Indian Americans. You see that? But everybody's listed under America, which is a jurisdiction. But they're still talking about two legal personalities, which is Native Americans and African Americans. So therefore, everybody who's saying that they're a Native American can also say they're African Americans, because those are two legal definitions. Because the Africans are really who? Moors, but they say you're African, but the reality is you're Moroccan, because the United States don't like to say the word Moor out loud. They don't like to say Moroccan out loud. They don't like to say Morocco out loud. So they just keep using this word African American, but Africa is a continent. That's not a nationality. There's 55 states in Africa. Which one of those states is called Africa? None of them. Africa's not a nationality. That's not the name of a people. That's a description. You say you're African, you say, okay, but what state you come from? You from Ghana? Okay, that's your nationality. You from Egypt or whatever? Egyptian. But Africa, so they use this word Africa, African American, because Africa is like a generic word, because they don't want to say what? The nationality of what? Moroccan. So it's really Moroccans. So you got Cherokees, and you got what? Moroccans, but the Moroccans are the freedmen. The Moors. From the top.
Now, for the first them in the history of the United States Senate, these sovereign signatory tribes, freedmen, descendants.
So who's the freedmen descendants? Moors. Moors are the freed men. They were freed by who? Lincoln. 1863. Emancipation Proclamation freed the quote-unquote slaves. Now they're freed men. But they're Moors. They're Dred Scott. Dred Scott was a freedman. He was a Moor, i.e. Moroccan, but he was an Indian. Did they ever say Dred Scott was Indian? No. They just called him Negro. Negro is not a nationality. They didn't want to say Moor or Moroccan out loud. Let's pick it up from here.
It is emotionally charged for many and for good reason. Years-long litigation and disagreement over citizenship status of freedmen descendants among the 5 treaty tribes has divided communities and even divided individual families.
Read it again.
It is emotionally charged for many and for good reason. Years-long litigation and disagreement over citizenship status of freedmen descendants among the 5 treaty tribes has divided communities and even divided individual families.
So right here, the United States is admitting that the tribes don't want to let Moors come back into their tribes. The Indian Reservation are not wanting to let the Moors back. They know that the Moors aren't what? Cherokees. They know the Moors are what? Moroccans. They know the Moors were just slaves, but right now the United States said, no, the freedmen are descendants, even though they were slaves, they're descendants of Indian tribes, because the United States is trying to push, they're trying to push Moors over here to be Indians. They want Moors to be Indians now. You see how they're forcing it? So the Indian tribes are giving pushback. Every tribe, but what? Cherokees. You're going to learn about the Cherokees right now selling out. The Cherokee administration is selling out their own Indian nationals. Their Cherokee nationals are being sold out by the heads of the Cherokee Nation. The real Cherokee nationals, the citizens of Cherokee Nation, are upset with the government of the Cherokee Nation, because the Cherokee Nation is starting to take money from the United States in order to admit Moors into the Cherokee Nation. You're going to learn more about that. Listen, the COINTELPRO is real. So from the top.
It is emotionally charged for many and for good reason. Years-long litigation and disagreement over citizenship status of freedmen descendants among the 5 treaty tribes has divided communities and even divided individual families.
So right now it's 5 treaty families, 5. But 4 out of the 5 are saying no to the Moors, i.e. the black people. But the Cherokee tribe is allowing black people to call themselves Cherokees now. You're going to find out why in a minute. Continue.
But disagreements cannot get resolved in silence. So we will soon be hearing from tribal leaders and representatives for each of the 5 tribes who will speak to their nation's treaty provisions with respect to freedmen descendants, Representative Waters, and who has.
Paul, so the freedmen descendants are who? Moors. But they were what? Slaves. But now the United States said, no, they're descendants, even though they were slaves. Let them go back into the Indian reservations to keep these Moors from finding out that they're actually Moroccans in Morocco. This is the only way the United States of America can try to hold on to the top spot. They never want this side of the equation to emerge as a sovereign independent state. They don't want this side of the equation. They want the Moors to say either remain black or say you're Indian. See, that's favorable to the United States. As long as you say you're black or say you're Indian, you're still subjugated, you see. Now that means the United States don't owe taxes to Morocco because Moroccans ain't saying they're Moroccans. The Moroccans are now saying they're what? Cherokee. But Cherokees come under the jurisdiction of the United States. Black people come under the jurisdiction of the United States. So whether you claim to be black or Indian, you come under the jurisdiction of the United States. The United States right now is trying to make Moors think that they're Indians. And they got people like Rod Hayes and Rare Bird and all these people saying, us Moors are Indians. They COINTELPRO. It's a counterintelligence program going on. Moors got to pay attention to what's happening. We're not Indians. Listen. Watch the COINTELPRO. Listen, this came out in 2022. Okay, listen.
Fought for freedmen descendants' rights for years, particularly in her leadership of the House Financial Services Committee.
Pause. So who's fighting for these freedmen? Look who they say fighting for it. Representative Waters. Maxine Waters, who's a sister of the House of Representatives. She's trying to help the freedmen become Indians. So they put Maxine Waters, who has a dark face, to try to encourage these Moors to say they're Indians, because it looks like what Maxine Waters is promoting for people, the freedmen, to be Indians again of the Cherokee nation. Use a black woman to tell black people that they're Indians. You got to catch it. Watch what she does next. She's a sellout. Listen. She's a sellout. You got to be careful with her. Listen.
Fought for freedmen descendants' rights for years, particularly in her leadership of the House Financial Services Committee, as well as Marilyn Vann, whose advocacy through her organization has raised awareness for freedmen descendants of all 5 tribes. Later this afternoon, I look forward to a deeper dialogue with individual leaders of freedmen groups.
Paul, why do they keep calling them freedmen? That's not a nationality. You see what they're doing? That's a placeholder word, right? Freedmen. But they already know who was free. They said the black people. But they know the black people are who? African Americans. But they know the African Americans are really who?
Moorish subjects.
Moorish subjects. They know this because of the treaties they've signed with the Moors and the Sultan. We'll talk about that. So instead of saying freedmen groups, they should be saying what? Moorish subjects. They don't want to use the word Moor, Moroccan, or Morocco, or Moorish. So they give all these Moors this generic nom de guerre called freedmen. Continue.
So it is our goal today to start a respectful dialogue to listen to different perspectives, both in a formal setting and informally among members of Congress, tribal leaders, and freedmen advocates, and to educate the committee and the public with informed accounts relating to our nation's 2 greatest failures: the removal of native peoples from their traditional homelands and the enslavement of black people. Descendants of both, many here today, still carry the pain of those grave injustices. I look forward to a respectful conversation that takes into account the historic importance of this hearing. I will now recognize Vice Chair Murkowski for an opening statement.
Listen.
Statement of Honorable Lisa Murkowski, U.S. Senator from Alaska. Senator Murkowski, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for convening today's very, very important, as you have noted, historic hearing. I apologize that I'm not there in person, but COVID is keeping me here in Alaska for this week. The history of the post-Civil War Reconstruction Treaty tribes, the Cherokee, the Chickasaw, Choctaw, Muskogee, and Seminole nations, often referred to as the 5 tribes, and the freedmen, the lineal descendants of African American slaves owned by the 5 tribes. It is part of a history that perhaps many Americans are not familiar with, nor do they fully understand. It is a complicated history of injustice and of sorrow for both Indian tribes and African Americans.
Read it again from here.
The history of the post-Civil War Reconstruction Treaty tribes, the Cherokee, the Chickasaw, Choctaw, Muskogee, and Seminole nations, often referred to as the 5 tribes, and the Freedmen, the lineal descendants of African American slaves owned by the 5 tribes, is part of a history that perhaps many Americans are not familiar with, nor do they fully understand. It is a complicated history of injustice and of sorrow for both Indian tribes and African Americans.
So therefore, the Indians, the 5 tribes, own black people. And the very black people are running over here to be Indians again. But now the United States is trying to force the 5 tribes to accept black people to be Indians so that black people don't wake up and find out they're what? Moors. You see what's happening? That's why the United States is talking about it in 2022, because this Moorish movement's been so strong. And you got to remember now, AMPAC signed their constitution February 28, 2021. Now the United States in the year 2022 is trying to tell all the black people, y'all ain't Moroccans, y'all are Indians. So come over here and subjugate yourself even further into the fabric of America. Listen, they're going to start talking about money in a minute. This is what people, they get trapped by this. Listen.
As you have noted, Mr. Chairman, this can be an uncomfortable discussion. It can be uncomfortable to talk about what was brought on by the federal government's own policies of forced removal of Native peoples from their ancestral homelands and the enslavement of African peoples. I understand that each of the 5 tribes has a unique history of treatment based on separate treaties with the United States. So I am interested in learning more about what these treaties entailed and the obligations of both the tribes and the federal government to freedmen descendants. So I do want to say how appreciative I am that the Indian Affairs Committee is examining this history, and that the 5 tribes and the freedmen descendants are here along with the Department of the Interior to have a constructive and, again, a respectful dialogue about how we might move forward together. This is indeed long, long overdue.
Now all of a sudden they want to talk to black people about their so-called rights to be Indians. You see what's happening? Because they know the Moorish movement is so strong that black people are waking up, and black people are choosing between being a Moorish American and Indian, because they don't realize it's a lateral movement, because everybody's still American at the end of the day. The United States is fooling black people to be Indians, but you're still American, which means you still come under jurisdiction of the United States. But then they're going to bait you with some money. Watch, they're going to talk about money here shortly. 15.
I agree with the chairman that we should task the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, with investigating what federal services the freedmen receive and should receive in the future from the federal government.
Read the last paragraph again. Watch the COINTELPRO. Now the feds is involved. The federal government. Listen.
I agree with the chairman that we should task the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, with investigating what federal services the freedmen received and should receive in the future from the federal government.
Now the federal government want to help black people all of a sudden. Listen.
With that, I turn back to you, Mr. Chairman, again. Thank you for convening this very important and very substantive hearing. For the many witnesses that are there in person today, thank you for traveling to be before the committee on a very important topic. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Chairman, thank you very much, Vice Chair Murkowski. We wish you a speedy recovery and look forward to seeing you soon. Are there other members of the committee wishing to make an opening statement? If not, we will turn to our first witness, who is a towering figure in history enough so that she comprises her own panel. Laughter. The Chairman, we are pleased to introduce the Honorable Maxine Waters, U.S. Representative for the 43rd Congressional District in California. Congresswoman, your full written testimony will be made a part of the official hearing record, and we look forward to your remarks.
So Maxine Waters is a sister, and she now is going to convince the black people to be what? Indians. You see what's happening? They always use a native to convince other natives to sell themselves out. So Maxine Waters is trying to get black people to go from being U.S. citizens to now being citizens of an Indian tribe. You see what's happening? And she knows she's subjugating people. Her job is to keep the people from waking up to realize they're Moroccans in Morocco, because that's the sovereign jurisdiction, because the United States of America owes the Moors taxes. So they sent in Maxine Waters, who's a sister, to get the Moors and the black people to say they're all Indian, because now she's going to start talking about money, because she know black people have been looking for reparations. So she's going to bait you and say, oh, you can find your reparations over here as what?
Crumbs.
Indians, right? You can find your reparations as Indians. You see what she's doing? She's baiting. Watch, you're going to learn. Let's continue.
Statement of Honorable Maxine Waters, U.S. Representative from California. Ms. Waters, thank you very much. Chairman Schatz, Vice Chair Murkowski, and members of the committee. Today, I am here to discuss an issue I care very deeply about that has been ignored for far too long. Many remain unfamiliar with the history of those who came to be known as the Native American freedmen and the ongoing plight of their descendants. The freedmen were black individuals who were enslaved by 5 formerly slave-holding tribal nations and were forced to walk and suffer on the Trail of Tears alongside their slave masters.
Pause, read again.
Today, I am here to discuss an issue I care very deeply about that has been ignored for far too long. Many remain unfamiliar with the history of those who came to be known as the Native American freedmen and the ongoing plight of their descendants. The freedmen were black individuals who were enslaved by 5 formerly slave-holding tribal nations and were forced to walk and suffer on the Trail of Tears alongside their slave masters.
So wait, let me get this right, Maxine Waters. You want the black people who were enslaved by the Indians to now return to the Indian Reservation because of the injustices, because the slaves were walking side by side with the Indians. And you want black people to go back to the Indian Reservation where they were slaves? Isn't that what she just said? She just said that the slave masters were the 5 civilized tribes, were the slave masters, and she's trying to help you to go back where? To the Indian Reservation where the slave masters were. So guess what? There were slave masters, United States of America, slave masters, Indian reservations. And Maxine Waters is telling the Moors to be Indians, to go back into a subjugated status with the other slave masters. You see what's happening? But wait, Maxine Waters is a black person too. Why ain't she taking her ass over there to be in the tribe? Why is she promoting for black people to be Indians, but she's not trying to be Indian? Are you hearing what I'm saying? She's promoting black people to be Indians, but she herself is not trying to become an Indian. You got to see the game that's being played. Somebody please ask Maxine Waters, when is she going to fill out her application to be on the registration of an Indian reservation? When is she going to do it? Never. Never. You got to see what's happening. She's there. It's COINTELPRO. This is what the United States do. They put somebody that looks like you in front of you, and they just a block of wood pointing the way, and you just follow them because you think they're looking out for you because they look like you. Continue.
The year after the Civil War ended, the 5 tribes agreed to abolish slavery and accept freedmen and their descendants as full tribal citizens under the 1866 treaty agreements they made with the United States government. Specifically, the 1866 treaties required the 5 tribes to abolish slavery and to agree to treat and accept formally enslaved individuals and their lineal descendants as equal tribal citizens.
Continue.
For example, the treaty signed by the Cherokee Nation reads, all native-born Cherokee, all Indians and whites legally members of the nation by adoption, and all freedmen who have been liberated by voluntary act of their former owners or by law, as well as free colored persons who were in the country at the commencement of the rebellion and are now residents therein, or who may return within 6 months from the 19th day of July 1866, and their descendants who reside within the limits of the Cherokee Nation shall be taken and deemed to be citizens of the Cherokee Nation.
You see what's happening? the United States wants the Cherokee Nation to adopt black people, i.e. what? Moors. You see, an adoption's going on. If you got to be adopted, that means that ain't your real family. So why would Maxine Waters want Moors to come over here to be Indians, and she's admitting out loud, that ain't your real family, you're being adopted as Cherokee. So if you've been adopted, then what's your real nationality then, Maxine Waters? What are the black people's real nationality then, Maxine Waters? If they've been adopted to be Cherokee, that means they must have had a nationality before they became Cherokee. Nationality is what? Moroccan. She knows it. Why would you need to be adopted if that was already your family? I'll say it again. Why would you need to be adopted if that was already your family? This is what the black people don't understand. You're not Cherokee. You've been adopted by the Cherokee nations and the other tribes to be adopted to come under the nationality of that adopted tribe, but you was also slaves. Now the United States wants to push you back over here to be Indians. Rod Hayes, Redbird, Dane Calloway, Top Cat, and all these other fools out here that keep saying they're Indians, they're not going to read this out loud to you. They just want you to give them donations and cash out and buy apparel and books from them. And they themselves haven't even registered to be Cherokee on the nation, on the tribe, on the reservation. Listen, from the top again, right here in highlight.
The year after the Civil War ended, the 5 tribes agreed to abolish slavery and accept freedmen and their descendants as full tribal citizens under the 1866 treaty agreements they made with the United States government.
Pause. So why was the United States making treaty agreements with the Indians in 1866? Remember, they said it was a reconstruction of the treaty. What happened in the 1860s? What happened? Lincoln did what? 1863 Emancipation Proclamation. He freed the slaves. What happened in 1865? 13th Amendment. Right? Lincoln turned around and said, let's make these Moors American citizens, 1865. Then they assassinated Lincoln in 1865 after he signed it. And then immediately in 1866, the following year, listen to me, Moors. Listen to me, Dr. G. The next following year, 1866, after they assassinated Lincoln, now all of a sudden they wanted the Indians to adopt the Moors, to make them Cherokees, because they knew the Moors were Moroccans, and they didn't want the Moors to wake up to find out that they were the sovereigns of the land. So they had to get the Moors to start saying they were Indians. You got to understand what's happening, why in 1866 the United States was talking to the 5 civilized tribes, because the 5 civilized tribes was all in what's commonly known as Oklahoma. They wanted to send all the Moors to Oklahoma. They didn't want the Moors to find out they were Moroccans. They didn't want Dred Scott to find out he was Moroccan. So they quickly tried to make Dred Scott what? Cherokee. You see? From the top, Brother Dre.
The year after the Civil War ended, the 5 tribes agreed to abolish slavery and accept freedmen and their descendants as full tribal citizens under the 1866 treaty agreements they made with the United States government. Specifically, the 1866 treaties required the 5 tribes to abolish slavery and to agree to treat and accept formally enslaved individuals and their lineal descendants as equal tribal citizens.
So right now, you got these fools out here that keep saying, well, my grandmama said we was Indians. I wonder why your grandmother was saying we was Indians. It's because the United States was pushing all the Moors to be Cherokees in 1866. So of course your great-grandmother saying she Indian, because a lot of the Moors ended up on Indian reservations after 1866. You say, oh, man, my grandmother told me the truth. She sure did, but she didn't know that they were forced to be Cherokee. They got adopted as Cherokees. That's not your family. Your grandmother, your great-grandmother's turn around saying you're Indian, and she didn't realize that the Moors, i.e. the Moroccans, were forced to be citizens of Indian tribes, and they were adopted. This is the United States talking about it. I'm not making it up. So when your grandmother told you you was Indian and we Indians, they didn't know about what happened in 1866. So you got Rod Hayes running around here talking about Big Mama, Big Mama, Big Mama. Big Mama didn't know that in 1866, all the Moors who were slaves were pushed back to Oklahoma and called themselves Indians. It's a false status. Even Maxine Waters said that we were adopted to be Indians. Dane Calloway ain't gonna tell you this. Rod Hayes not gonna tell you this. Rare Bird ain't gonna tell you this. Top Cat not gonna tell you this, and the like. They just gonna keep telling you you're Indian, but they're not gonna tell you the law and history. And this just took place in 2022. I'm not reading something from 1866. This document came out in 2022 to talk about something that happened in 1866. From the top, your brother Dre.
The year after the Civil War ended, the 5 tribes agreed to abolish slavery and accept freedmen and their descendants as full tribal citizens under the 1866 treaty agreements.
Pause. So, the year after the Civil War ended, the 5 tribes agreed to abolish slavery. The Indian reservations had black people on there as slaves. And you run around saying, yeah, we was Indian. You was Indian what? Slaves. Big Mama didn't realize they were all forced to be slaves on the Indian reservation. Then they were forced to be citizens of the same reservations they came from. The United States sent them right back to Indian reservations. Now they said, no, don't make them slaves. Make them naturalized Cherokee nationals. So the Moors end up being naturalized. Naturalized being what? You were what? Adopted to be something that you're not. Big Mama didn't know what she was talking about. She didn't know this. And Top Cat, Dane Calloway, Rod Hayes, Red Birds, and all the rest of these fools that keep saying we're Indians, we ain't Indians. It's the United States COINTELPRO program, it's counterintelligence that's involved. It's got these Moors all of a sudden who was wearing feathers. Now they're wearing feathers telling you you're Indians. You got to watch what's happening. Let's keep reading. Listen, for example,
the treaty signed by the Cherokee Nation reads, all native-born Cherokee, all Indians and whites legally members of the nation by adoption, and all freedmen who have been liberated by voluntary act of their former owners or by law, as well as free colored persons who were in the country at the commencement of the rebellion and are now residents therein, or who may return within 6 months from the 19th day of July, 1866, and their descendants who reside within the limits of the Cherokee Nation shall be taken and deemed to be citizens of the Cherokee Nation.
So all the Moors end up being citizens of the Cherokee Nation because the feds pushed them over there to be adopted.
Genocide again.
You were adopted. Adopted. You ain't Indians. Listen.
The 4 other tribes all signed similar treaties.
So the other 4 tribes, in addition to the Cherokee Nation, the other nations also signed to say, okay, we're going to let these Moors be Indians now. Even though they used to be our slaves, now we're going to make them citizens. Again.
The 4 other tribes all signed similar treaties. Despite the fact that these treaty obligations still exist and are binding on the 5 tribes, beginning in the late 1970s and early 1980s, the tribes began to take formal actions to take away the citizenship rights of descendants of freedmen.
Pause. See, now the Indian tribe said, no. We don't want to let these Moors come over here to be Cherokee citizens, because the Cherokee, the real Cherokees, know that the Moors are being adopted. They don't have the real genealogy to be Cherokee. They're looking at the treaty saying, you know, you black people over here that's calling yourself Indian, you were adopted. And we don't want to let no more of y'all come over here. So they're rejecting it. They're recently rejecting it. This is what you see in the news, that black people are trying to force their rights to be Indians, and the black people don't realize you were actually slaves. The United States wants you to be Indians. But the Indian tribes are saying, 4 of the Indian tribes are saying, no more Moors. We're shutting the door. That's it. The United States is getting upset. Listen, the United States is getting upset that the Indian tribes won't let black people be Indians. You're going to learn about that. Continue.
For instance, in 1983, freedmen were prohibited from voting in Cherokee Nation
Elections. You see that? So black people were prohibited from voting in Cherokee nations in 1983. You know why the black people were forbidden from voting in a Cherokee election? Because the black people ain't Cherokees. They were adopted. So they got privileges, but they don't have rights. They're the redhead stepchild. Listen. So they're prohibited from elections.
and received letters informing them that their citizenship had been canceled.
Look at that. So the Indian nations is telling them you ain't a citizen of this tribe no more. How could they just do that? It's because they ain't real Indians. Black people ain't real Indians. They're Moors. The United States knows this. Maxine Waters knows this. The Cherokee and all the other tribes know this, that all these black people are not Indians.
That's crazy.
Listen.
In 2007, the Cherokee amended their constitution to limit citizenship to only individuals who were Cherokee by blood. These actions led to years of litigation that was finally settled in 2017 when a federal district court judge ruled in favor of the freedmen and their right to citizenship.
Read it again. You see the COINTELPRO? A federal judge is forcing the Indian reservations to let black people be Indians. See what the feds are doing? They say, no. Let these black people be Indians because we don't want these black people to find out they're what? Moors. Read it again, brother.
In 2007, the Cherokee amended their constitution to limit citizenship to only individuals who were Cherokee by blood. These actions led to years of litigation that was finally settled in 2017 when a federal district court judge ruled in favor of the freedmen and their right to citizenship.
So the federal judge, who's got jurisdiction over Indian reservations, the federal judge of the United States of America told the Indian reservations, you're going to let these black people be Indians. Because we can't let them find out that they're Moors, i.e. Moroccans, because then they'll emerge as an independent sovereign state of the Empire Morocco again. So please let them acquiesce and become Indians. Please, Indians. That's what the federal judge told these Indians. How a federal judge got jurisdiction over Indians? I thought these Indians had all this sovereignty. No, they don't. They come under the United States of America. And black people are running in droves to come under the United States of America. You better off just being a black citizen than being an Indian national. Because the feds still got jurisdiction. Let's read it again.
In 2007, the Cherokee amended their constitution to limit citizenship to only individuals who were Cherokee by blood. These actions led to years of litigation that was finally settled in 2017 when a federal district court judge ruled in favor of the freedmen and their right to citizenship.
So the freedmen and federal judge voted for these black people, who are actually Moors, to be citizens of the Indian reservations. See how the feds get involved? It's COINTELPRO, counterintelligence program. Continue.
In this ruling, the judge stated, in accordance with Article 9 of the 1866 treaty, the Cherokee freedmen have a present right to citizenship in the Cherokee Nation that is coexistent with the rights of native Cherokees. Following the court decision, which the Cherokee Nation accepted as binding, the tribe has taken actions to comply with the decision and ensure that descendants of freedmen are treated as equal citizens.
So the black people now got a right to be treated as equal citizens to come back to Indian tribes, even though they used to be slaves on the reservation. Now the feds are saying, no, let them be citizens because we can't let them find out they're Moors. You see what's happening? Continue.
Before my committee, Cherokee Nation Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin testified that these actions have made the Cherokee Nation a better nation for having recognized full and equal citizenship of freedmen descendants. Despite the actions of the Cherokee to right the wrong inflicted on its freedmen, the descendants of freedmen of the other four tribes continue to be denied tribal citizenship and other basic rights associated with citizenship, like equal access to federally funded affordable housing.
So the other four tribes are saying no to black people, but the Cherokees nation is letting the black people be Indians. Now, do you see why Rare Birds run around saying she's Cherokee? Because she's a part of that COINTELPRO with the feds to tell you that you're a Cherokee Indian, because the Cherokees are letting black people be Cherokees now, even though you're being adopted as Cherokee, because you're really what? Moroccans. You see what's happening? Now they talking about funding. You see right here, federally funded affordable housing. You see the feds is now giving money to the Cherokee nation to let these black people come in. They're going to pay off the Cherokee tribe administrators to let black people come back. Listen.
My committee even heard testimony last year that freedmen have even been denied access to life-saving vaccines during the ongoing pandemic. It was this testimony that prompted even the Biden administration to designate all Seminole freedmen as eligible for health care services, including the COVID vaccine through the Indian Health Service. However, this decision only applies to Seminole freedmen and not freedmen from the other tribes. We know that equal access to housing sits at the heart of many of the racial and economic injustices we continue to see across the country today. As chairwoman of the House Financial Services Committee, I recognize that Native communities face some of the worst housing conditions in the United States. It is also important to recognize that the legacy of land and culture disfranchisement has created and maintained these circumstances.
Listen, so now they're going to start making the reservations look nice. Look.
That is why I propose providing $2 billion for affordable housing in tribal communities in My Housing is Infrastructure Act.
Pause. Read it again.
That is why I propose providing $2 billion for affordable housing in tribal communities in My Housing is Infrastructure Act.
Pause. Read it again.
That is why I propose providing $2 billion for affordable housing in tribal communities in My Housing is Infrastructure Act.
So right now, Maxine Waters is saying, let's come up with $2 billion so we can build housing on these Indian tribes, these reservations, so these black people go to the reservations. So they're tempting the Cherokee leaders to take this money because they know out of that $2 billion, the chief, the judges, the legislators going to put a lot of that money in their pocket just to let black people come back. So they're paying off the Cherokee leaders to let black people be Cherokee citizens. You see what's happening? $2 billion. You got to see what's happening. You know, we're just going to pause right there. I just want to stop right there. You got to see what the United States is doing. You got to be able to see it. They're trying to make Moors say that they're Indians, and you got Dr. G. Dr. G, I hate to tell you, Dr. G, you got COINTELPRO up there with you, Dr. G. They want people to say they're Indians, Dr. G. Because the United States don't want everybody to find out they're Moor. These black people are Moroccans, they're not Cherokees. Even the United States is talking about this year in the year 2022, Dr. G. You got to understand this is COINTELPRO, Dr. G. First of all, we're not Indians. Second of all, we're not Moorish Americans, because that's not a nationality, Dr. G. That is a compound adjective. We are Moroccans, Dr. G. We're supposed to be coming back to the Empire of Morocco, Dr. G. As I start to close out, Dr. G, please understand. This is the obligation of Article 73 of the Charter. This is the obligation of the Act Adversaries of 1906. Our treaty obligation as Moors was to establish the government again, Dr. G. The Empire of Morocco, this is what the United States and Maxine Waters don't want to see, Dr. G. So if you're going to put your panel together to figure out how we're going to work together, first you got to ask yourself the question, Dr. G, which jurisdiction do you want to pick? You want to be Moroccan, Dr. G? Or you want to be Moorish American over here in the territory of the United States? or you want to be Indian, Dr. G? Because one of these jurisdictions oversees another. I don't know about you, Dr. G. I'd rather be Moroccan in Morocco and have the highest status. That way we can collect taxation from the United States of America. That's what we need to understand, Dr. G. So please stop wasting your time with anybody who say they're Indian because they're subjugating our people, Dr. G. So hopefully you've learned something today. I really didn't want to talk about this. I'd rather talk about how the Moors can collect taxes. But first I had to talk about jurisdiction because you got your panel coming up soon. And everybody on there is full of crap. I end with that.
Islam.
Islam.
Islam.